Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Style Esports Season 5. Tonight, we've got Dragons of the West going up against Team Death Realm. I am your play-by-play caster, Zephyr, joining you again for the first time with the True Light as my color. True Light, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. We already saw what happened in the pro draft coming into this, so everything that everyone's going to be seeing on stream is just everything in proper order. Thank God.
Okay.
But
we've seen it. That's a funny way to see that we don't already have some particular opinions here.
You could say, I think maybe a little more apt of a term is we've witnessed what has happened in this draft.
There you go.
And now we're going to witness what's going to happen after we get into game. But just to break it down, since we're going top to bottom, so to speak, that's actually a blind pick Renekton that Team Death Realm locked in. And Renekton just generally very strong nowadays. You can either take Conqueror or PTA. He goes really well with both of them depending on what your play style is. Right. And something that a lot of people would always say about Renekton in previous patches, seasons, is he has this dip, he has this drop off, and it's really not fun to play it transitioning into the late game. But with the rise of things like Death's Dance, Renekton doesn't feel as bad into the late game. He still feels relevant, and it feels like he has agency going into late. The response from Dragons of the West, though, was a Garen. I'm not 100% certain on how that matchup goes.
Really? You're not 100% certain?
Oh, I don't play a whole lot of top lane.
Okay, all right, that's understandable. I can give you a little bit of a rundown from someone who maybe dips his toes in the water into the top side of the map occasionally, but I can definitely tell you, until Garen gets a bit tankier and we do find his way through getting towards that early game spike of that week, Renekton really is just going to take this lane and run it, especially since Garen can do little to punish unless he gets a great silence off. Now, once it gets a bit tankier, we do see him surge back, and actually he can possibly find something, maybe not against Renekton, but see his way into some of these fights. But personally, True, I think Garen's too single target oriented, so I definitely think if we're looking at who won the draft out on this one, Team Death Realm.
Yeah, and just to break things down, otherwise, so B1 for Team Death Realm was Jax. They're obviously tossing that into the jungle. Then R1, R2 was Kayn Thresh. Then the response from Team Death Realm was to lock their bottom lane with Rakan Twitch. And as you see there, the final picks coming through, Diana, Ezreal, Garen for Dragons of the West, and then the Galio and the Renekton for Team Death Realm. So as we discussed, one of these compositions is very, very reflective of what we see in the competitive meta, and it's Team Death Realms, right? You see this marked degree of coordination. You see a game plan about what they want to do through Rakan, Galio, Jax, Renekton. These guys like to go in, they like to mess people up, and Twitch is going to scale pretty damn well into the late game. Dragons of the West, on the other hand, it's a little bit more mishmash. It's a little bit less coordinated. But I can also say, in theory, that assuming that Kayn, Diana, and Ezreal can get off the ground, they can be very, very difficult to deal with.
That is true. I definitely can see the potential for Dragons of the West to find some sort of victory early here and start transitioning that to a lead. Like I said earlier with Garen, the single target focus actually transitions to this team as a whole. Ezreal, Diana, and Kayn, respectively, aren't really going to be putting in much work here, but the dive and pick potential on these champs, respectively, that's going to be something that you'll have to see Team Death Realm play around, especially since they have Twitch being one of the primary carries that they're going to have to protect off of this team. So I can see if we find some of those early leads and maybe the comfort picks come through here for Dragons of the West, I can see where that victory may kind of slide its way into this composition.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, that's kind of what Dragons of the West needs to execute on, right? The dive needs to come through. Nemesis needs to have that great ultimate as Kayn to look for. You get a Thresh hook, hopefully, into Diana and Kayn just jumping onto Twitch, taking him out of the fight before Galio can arrive, and they get taunted up. Because if that doesn't happen, I feel as though that Team Death Realm can really, really just completely take over fights if they're not able to execute that primary key target, which is this Twitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can definitely blow up in their face, is a way we'll put it. I feel like they've also got kind of a ticking time bomb on their hands. I
Hmm.
think Dragons of the West, they've got a short window where they can actually capitalize and make some action happen here before you have the monsters on Team Death Realm scale up to their full potential, particularly looking at Gaudi on the Jax and Azotium on the Twitch. So once those two are kind of in full force, you're not going to be able to deal with the root CC that you see coming from Galio and Rakan, respectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that analysis. And just to put my 2 cents in there, I really do like the composition that Team Death Realm drafted for themselves. I can see that clear game plan that they want to execute on. And like you said, windows of opportunity. Team Death Realm, they've definitely crafted something very good for themselves. And as you mentioned, Dragons of the West, their window is narrow. They definitely have an opportunity to execute on it, but I'm not as confident in their ability to do so.
Nah, fantastic caster we've got here, keeping the bias to a little. I love it. Either way, the two teams, we've set up the analysis that we can give you to the best of our potential, but it's going to be left up to their own skill level. With all that being said, Style Esports here is going to take a little break as we get everything organized going into the game here. We'll be right back. Stay tuned and don't click away. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Style Esports. If you're just joining us, we've got the Dragons of the West taking on Team Death Realm here tonight. I'm still your play-by-play caster, Zephyr, and I'm still joined by the lovely True Light as my color. And right off the bat, we're going to be running straight into a pause.
Yeah, you can see Pappy Buck DCing pretty instantaneously right there. Guessing he has some connectivity issues, so to speak. But as you can see here, Team Death Realm, looks like they're completely stacked up here. You can actually see that Gotti is still in that bottom side jungle towards his own red buff, or the red buff camp spawn area. But otherwise, they might be just stacking up, looking to punish a potential invade. Maybe they're calling that because Ketamine is on that thresh that he really likes to play. And Galio is a very, very hard punish for an invade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although they could look for an invade on their own with a Rakan W with that grand entrance. Although I don't really feel like that's super, super consistent because of a little bit of the delay before the knockup.
Personally, I don't see this engage kind of working out in either team's favor here. I think you do have a lot of opportunity for great peel on both ends, especially if no one takes abilities right off the bat and they save it up for the potential of an invade. I think I also just judging from the general position here that we can see immediately, you already see a good hovering getting into that kind of line of scrimmage here, hopefully from the side of Dragons of the West. I'm hoping that we see Diana move down, Ezreal keeps going once he reconnects. If that kind of comes through, that invade is essentially moot unless you see really good Fog of War play.
Yeah, I think the really potential thing that they'd have to be worried about is the only person that on Dragons of the West that could remotely look for anything with an invade is just Ketamine, right? It's just a death sentence.
Yeah.
Because if you think about everything else on everyone else's kit here, they don't want to invade. Diana needs to be at least level 2 to start getting some degree of damage down. Ezreal, sure, you have a little bit of poke with Mystic Shot, but even if you started E, that would be really, really bad. Just to run away from an invade. I don't think that Dragons of the West should be looking for an invade here remotely, and which raises a few question marks, at least in my head, as to why Team Death Realm think they need to stack up as 5 to punish a potential invade, because I don't really see one coming through.
Nah, they're definitely looking for something, I think, especially since you've got the Renekton coming through there as well from all the way from the top side. So they're trying to pull something off here. I'm going to take my bets and I'm going to place them down here that I don't think anything's really going to come out of it.
I agree.
One good thing to watch though is hopefully we'll see Nemesis make a good rotation. Say they go forward, they go for the 5-man, and you see the instant recognition that they are there. Okay, I want to see Nemesis go from the side here and get some additional vision on the top side of the map towards this jungle camp, particularly blue. Because if that comes through, then we can maybe see some of the pathing of Jay Gotti. Maybe we can get some general pressure, just see what the game plan is from Team Death Realm. If you don't take advantage of something like that, those little moments, that's kind of a waste in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. But I feel like we've hashed out the potential level 1, the invade, so to speak, for a little bit of a while at this point. Otherwise, I just really noticed something on the rune setup for Dragons of the West. It is a League of Conqueror for their composition. You can see 4 of their 5 members have taken Conqueror, and it completely works. But we're out of the pause. You can see them stacking up in the brush
perfect.
here.
I mean,
are they looking for it though? No, I think they just want to punish.
That'd be crazy if they were just looking to quote unquote punish by having the Renekton, which, in my personal opinion, is kind of extra. I mean, I can see Uncle Ketamine having the hook be available, and that's kind of your schmove, but a little weird.
Yeah. Nothing really substantial happened from any of that. And I think one thing that maybe Dragons of the West should have noticed, right, is that you see your team, the enemy team is not doing a 5-point. Then I would venture to guess okay, let's move through some normal routes. Let's try to get some degree of forward vision down and look for something there. But They opt not to do that. They put the defensive wards in the river. So pretty standard start no matter what. No punish is coming through either way.
Yeah, no one's really getting an objective leave off. This one sounds like it's just pretty standard across the board. Other than that, we've got kind of the jungle start flipped on both sides. Of course, you're going to see the Raptor start from the Kayn, respectively. You got Jax going to be rotating towards that top end. One good place to look for that initial gank is definitely going to be towards either the mid or more impressively the top, especially since the Renekton pick has so much extra time here within the first 6 levels to find something for himself.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to point out is that Ketamine actually did put down his ward in the enemy team jungle, but considering the spot where he placed it, you actually doesn't see where Gotti is pathing because he placed it in the bush. You need to place that ward a bit more towards the Raptor camp because then you will see the Jax walking into the brush
Absolutely.
next time. So a bit of a slight misplay there because I don't think that ward that he ends up putting down really means anything in the grand scheme of things. If there's like 0 hit tracking to be had no matter what you do there, unless it was like punish a potential invade. That's the only reason I can see.
Meanwhile, we do have Escanor stepping up towards the Raptor side there. He gets the early vision onto Nemesis, clearing that red. So they've got the information that he's making that rotation towards the bot side. So Azodum and Lotus here on Team Death Realm now know that within next 30, 60 seconds, they're in a little bit of the danger zone.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I think the thing is with Nemesis on this Kayn, right? You take the Conquer. I feel like that's very indicative of, hey, I want to go for Red Kayn this game. Nice little
good
time right there.
Yeah, good trade, good trade. Curious to see if you can capitalize any further.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Escanor, like Galio is just generally favored in this matchup versus Diana, just because of the magic damage shield, the taunt reducing not only magic damage, but also like hard CC, which will proc your aftershock. It's very, very easy for Galio to play this lane as long as you stay.
And that was a blind Diana, correct?
Yeah, that was a blind Diana.
So, you get punished.
Well, Gotti just showed himself right there. I think that Nemesis does have the time to grab the scuttle. Yeah. So I think that's a bit of interesting pathing on the part of the Jax, especially because he leaf strike in the lane. So just gives complete vision now. Going to be walking towards that Raptor camp to take it on the respawn. Otherwise, I don't see anything like super violent happening anytime soon. Ooh, gosh, Renekton.
I mean, you say nothing super violent. Our girl definitely has the damage on the plate to boot. So I'm curious. I want to see Gotti rotate up. I want to see him look for Donald here and find a kill. I mean, we're going to have to wait, though. Escanor is here. Double gank. You do have the response from Gotti being available. He dashes back. The Ignite gets him out. Counter-strike there. He's going to use it to get the dash off. The flash from Nemesis to follow up. Just not enough damage.
Ooh, yeah, that was... just to say... that was a very nice death sentence. Like, no real follow-up off that, but just to break down what happens there in mid lane, Escanor is a little bit out of position. Nemesis, you're able to path very interestingly as Kayn with the Shadow Walk through the terrain, able to and like that's the gank that Nemesis wants to get through, right? Gank one of the 2 melee solo laners, Fish and Valor. With those changes to Diana that you had a couple of months ago, you're able to engage very rather instantaneously. You get the early fight, you proc the passive, get the Conqueror down as well, and it's a very quick kill onto the Galio using that Ignite very effectively.
I think Gotti here is hovering the mid lane just a little too much. I know you have the additional kind of counter to Diana early, picking through with the Galio, and you do want to see this guy start making rotations like what he is currently looking for. I mean, right there, he's going to come in. I'm curious if this is a little too late. That Grand Entrance didn't quite get the knockup we wanted. He gets on to Ketamine. There's the taunt. Escanor with a great rotation. I mean, takes the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, that was the max of max ranges on Justice Punch right there. Like, if I was Ketamine in that situation, I would feel robbed. No, seriously, you see the Galio Justice Punch from that far away, you still get knocked up. Oh, dear, Pappy Buck.
I can't capitalize on it, but that's still fun to watch.
Yeah, the knockup coming through. Like, you're sweating, right? If you're Ezreal in that situation, you're sweating. You have no mana. You have no E.
You have no mana.
Yeah, you'd be absolutely terrified the moment Rakan lands that Grand Entrance on you. But as you said, Zodium doesn't have any way to follow up on that outside of flashing in, and that's just not happening.
Hopefully.
Oh no,
Fish and Valor. Moonfall to get this man. He's going to flash out into the hands of Jay Gotti, the protector. That's not going to go down as of yet. Very nice play from Team Death Realm.
Yeah, and you can actually see Escanor, the moment he flashed out was the moment Fish and Valor tried to follow with the Lunar Rush. So it looked like, it's just a free dash from Diana right there. Although it's not great that Escanor seems to be just getting like hard focused here, right? Nemesis is just on him constantly. Fish and Valor almost always there to follow up as well. So not great, but I think Galio is comfortable with that, right? He's not a champion that needs to hard win lane. You pick the Galio because he's flexible. He can go roam to map or to the other areas of the map with that hero's entrance. And yeah, I think Escanor is fine, especially because he's 1-1 after that gank.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, here, Poppy Buck stayed into that lane and actually got himself up to the True Shot Barrage. Yeah, Gotti. That teleport kind of necessary because you don't want to be forced out of position. But sadly, I actually think now looking at it, it was necessary. It wasn't necessary. They just didn't know where the rest, after some of those resets, they just had no clue if Dragons of the West could collapse aggressively, especially with no sight on Nemesis.
Yeah, I think in that particular situation, even if you are Gotti, right, you have Escanor there in the mid lane, the hero's entrance is available. So even if Ketamine wanted to go forward and just try to get a cheeky kill, it doesn't have Ignite. But now, talk about cheeky, another gank in the mid lane.
See, he's going to go back for the knockup, but he wasn't in turret rage to get some of that extra damage off, so he takes the punishment. That's another kill on the Fish and Valor.
Mm-hmm. And, that's exactly what I think they should be doing, right? Let Fish and Valor get the gold, but Nemesis, on the other hand, he's the one who wants to get the progress towards that Red Cane going. And there's, once again, the power of Renekton. He's going for that Bork Rush, which is, just typical for Renekton nowadays. But yeah, it's just very, very favorable for him.
This could not look good. Renekton spotted out by the ward here, making this rotation. It seems they've communicated check onto the blue buff to make sure that Nemesis didn't go for the take there, especially since he didn't show up relatively until we saw him in the gank of mid lane. Speaking of gank in the mid lane, he'll be forcing that flash out of Fish and Valor.
Very fair, very fair flash. Just about to get stunned up by the counter strike. Does it to just be completely safe, especially because Escanor was there to follow up. But you see pings going onto the blue buff, Dragons of the West.
They're trying to steal this. You've got Nemesis there, the rest of the bot lane as well. Great death sentence. Hero's entrance going to come through. Going to get that massive knockout on the Nemesis. Going to get absolutely deleted. Could not even come through with the Umbral Trespass. I don't think he even was 5 yet, right? Or 6. No, he had Umbral Trespass.
No, he has it available there, but even then, if he lands it, I'm not 100% sure that saves him, although the flash is available.
Good time. Sadly, couldn't follow up the wins.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Galio is a very fun champion to play as far as what a tank, quote unquote, is. But obviously, he's not a pure tank.
That's a Riot's decision.
All right, he pushes the bill of AP. All right,
let's look at the tank himself. Straight into the grand entrance stun there. That shutdown's going to work its way on to Lotus. Great rotation there from Team Death Realm.
Yeah, you can see Lotus already has those Moby boots, able to roam with impunity to that mid lane follow-up with Escanor. And, give Fish and Valor a taste of his own medicine, so to speak. They've been doing that all game to Escanor so far, and I'm sure it feels really great to just finally be able to take down the Diana.
Wow.
I don't think Donald Trump can actually take this.
No, especially with Dominus saving that extra last bit of health there. Sadly, Barn Grill... Wait, what am I talking about? It's a Renekton with full stacked rage. He's going to heal off that wave and no stack pronto. There's the stun and he goes for the follow-up and easy. Just had to wait it out for Trump to step forward.
And that is why you have to be so careful around a Renekton that has full rage, right? Because you're going to get 2 enhanced abilities out of it at 100% rage. He instantly goes in, gets the slice forward into the stun, and the Call of the Meek, and that's going to be first tower too. Oh, man.
11 minutes, real huge chunk of gold there onto the precedent of Gotti and Bar Grill now. So curious to see because Bar Grill, he's an early game champion. You make the play, and speaking of
Valor
plays
here.
being made, Moonfall, they're going to see the flash out of that. Escanor comes through with the teleport, going to use the proto belt, get straight on top of this guy, follows it with the taunt. There's the knockout, brings a Fury. Valor's looking for Jay Gotti, can't find the Crescent Moon onto him.
Sticking around if Escanor needs the help.
Oh, wait, this does not look good. If I was Gotti, I say look for the back, look for the back.
Oh,
Great
he flagged.
job
Oh,
getting
no.
it out. That's a shame. Gotti, he's going to find himself into the grave here. As looks
but
rotation. Finds Fish and Valor immediately. Now down. Nemesis looking for Escanor. Going to get knocked up, though. That's going to be the 2-for-1 in favor of Team Death Realm. Great rotation from Bar Grill.
It looked good for Dragons of the West. Then it looked bad. Then it looked good. And then it looked bad again. Bar Grill able to get back to his lane in time. Completely punishing Nemesis and Fish and Valor right there. Works out very, very well. I think the only thing that Team Death Realm really didn't do great in that particular circumstances is Gotti sticking around in that bush. There was nothing he could have done, even if he did stick around there.
If he stays through, there's no counter strike that's going to save the day off of the stun there. You're going to find death at some point. Speaking of finding death here, Donald Trump running straight into the clutches of Bar Grill. There's the Dominus. I mean, this guy's got Bork. If he had the slow up, that would be it. Nemesis here. He's going to look for the trade, but he doesn't even get the Ross knock-up. There's Umbral Trespass. Sadly, the dash doesn't go in the right direction, and that's going to be the Demacian Justice to shut down Bar Grill.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a 1v2 in a situation where all he has is Dominus. The Bork active isn't there. He doesn't even have boots done, right? Yeah. Bar Grill is very, very comfortable where he is at roughly a 30 CS lead at this point, working towards the Black Cleaver as well for Renekton, just the bread and butter items coming through. And he is getting very, very big. It's very hard for Donald Trump to deal with this Renekton. Off the fact that even with Bramble Vest, you're only reducing the Call to Meek healing, and obviously the healing with the lifesteal from Bork as well. But Dominus doesn't care about that. It just gives Renekton help.
Yeah, Dominus is gonna mess you up whether you like it or not. So I definitely think we see the weakness now starting to eat through on some of the composition choices here from the side of Dragons of the West. The Garen being one of the more weaker picks in the competitive scene. I mean, I cannot express I feel like I'm speaking to a kindergartner. 2 + 2 = 4. Maybe Garen in competitive, not really good. Speaking of Garen here, going to be running into 3 members of Team Death Realm. Multiple knockups, multiple taunts. Can't even get the silence off. That kill finds its way onto Gotti.
Yeah, the layered CC punishing him so hard there. Can't even get away from the leap strike. And, oh, Nemesis? Okay. Anyway.
It was just a little pause.
Yeah, just a bit. Just a tad. But you can see, that's already 14 minutes into the game. I don't think Nemesis has transformed quite yet. No, he does have transformation.
Yeah,
he is on that. Okay. Yeah, that's part of what you need. It doesn't feel great that he's 0, 2, and 3. Nice little death sentence right there, though.
Not going to punish it, though. Sadly, though, it does give the position of Zotium if they were looking for anything there. Yeah, you don't come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that in this lane, the one you need to hook and kill as fast as possible is Twitch, right? But unfortunately, the only way to pull that off is if Rakan isn't there. Oh dear.
Bar Grill. I mean, this is why I like the Renekton. You see that flash come through. Good. I mean, true and blue flash. That's, what you have to expend there.
If the flash is even a fraction bit later right there, the dice is going to happen. He's going to go through the wall. But
there's the spray and pray. Azotium looking for the follow-up into the spot lane, but sadly a great flay prevents the counter-strike, but you cannot prevent the damage from coming through. Meanwhile, now Escanor going to be on the 2v1. You've got the rotation from Slotus available. The charm comes through, and he picks up the kill onto Valor. They turn their way onto Nemesis. He's got the Umbral Trespass available. But I don't think it's going to be enough to save the day here. And he gets the heal off, but great double knockup. He turns his way onto his Otium. If I was him, I'd look for Escanor. But yeah, Gotti picks that one up. So now you've got the 3-1 Jax, the 3-2 Escanor on the Galleon, the 2-0. I mean, I could go down the list. You get it. These guys are definitely a bit more fed.
Yeah, I mean, everybody on the side of Team Death Realm doing very well for themselves at this point. Even a Zotium without any kills to his name, right? Happy to be. Oh dear.
Yeah,
This is just going to keep happening. No, don't TP. Oh dear.
Oh no. All right,
Okay.
so
Okay. Actually, that might have saved him. That might have saved him.
Saved
'Cause
him?
if that TP finishes, I'm pretty sure he dies.
Oh, you're right. I thought the TP. Okay, I didn't realize what you were going with there, but yes, if the TP had come through for Donald Trump, yeah, that would not have worked out in his favor. And with that, that's going to be another tier 1 going down. And Nemesis, I don't think he can punish. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Back off, bud.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just stands in the corner of the terrain there, menacingly, just trying to drive them away. But you can see, right? CS leads for every single lane for Team Death Realm, with the exception of Escanor. But if you take a look at the gold, every single member of Team Death Realm has a gold lead over their laning opponents.
Yeah.
And, some very, very substantial ones if you're looking at, Goatee, for instance, or Lotus versus Ketamine. Team Death Realm, they are just firing on all cylinders right now, and I don't see any reason for them to let up. They have 2 Drakes. That Soul going up to Soul Point's going to be spawning in just 30 seconds. It's going to be an Infernal. An Infernal is fantastic to snowball the game and just close it out as fast as possible.
No, absolutely. Speaking of close it out fast as possible, Nemesis looking for the pick here on the Lotus. He does get that knockup. Lantern's thrown in response there. He's going to be forced to flash. Death Sentence comes through in response. Nothing's going to be found as of yet. Before anything really exciting goes through, I will say, you discussed it with me. The comp here between these two teams, it only gets stronger for Team Death Realm. Counter-Strike doesn't come through. Nemesis looking for Axum. We do see the exhaust come through. That's the dive potential that we needed to see. Now Jay Gotti not going to find the response as Demasian Justice comes through. They at least find Ketamine and Poppy Buck respectively. That's going to be a double knockup in turn, but the double kill coming through here for Bar Grill. The Dominus just being too strong to deal with. Great double taunt there, but Donald Trump punishes Grill. Looks for Escanor next. He's going to get over the wall with that flash. It's going to be the 2-on-2 there, and the forced reset for Team Death Realm, I believe. Yeah, that's going to be the Infernal going over to Dragons of the West, and I think we both can clearly see where this went wrong.
Yeah, they did exactly what we knew they needed to do, right? They identify the Twitch, they pressure him immediately, but we got TP coming in the drag pit.
Escanor going to be looking for the contestant on this one. Sadly, those 2 kills look to be going his way. Lotus, the chase they tried to ensue, but his death he does not find. Donald Trump looking a bit dicey here. He throws out the thumbs up. He knows what's coming. That's going to be the double onto Escanor, respectively.
Well, silver lining, so to speak, they did secure that Infernal Drake, which denies the Soul Point for Team Death Realm. Like that timer, so to speak, on their ability to close the game out gets extended a little bit. But, something that can also reduce that time is popping Rift Herald. And that's exactly what they do in response.
Yeah. That's going to be a huge chunk of gold funneled through as they also look for this tier 2 here. Curious to see if we can see some
They might crack the base with this push, honestly.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. I don't know if the wave's going to hold out long enough.
It's going to get the charge, I think. They walk off.
They walk off. So that's not going to go through, but they get 2 turrets, and that's big. That gives you the entire pressure of this map now, not having those available. So they can run this drag. They can take the red. That finds its way onto Gotti, and now they can look for the Baron.
Yeah, and you see the thing is, despite losing that fight, they do get the 2 return kills. And then in addition to that, they end up owning the map off the Rift Herald. They're setting up vision in the red side jungle of Dragons of the West, and they're taking pretty much everything that they can and starting to choke them out so substantially. You can see almost a 7,000 gold lead in the favor of Team Death Realm, and they're just so comfortable with where they are at this point.
Wait, this is hilarious. I cannot beseech you to understand that there's no vision in the pit. Now, it's given away by the movement here from Twitch. Oh, speaking of Twitch, he's going to go for the engage. Oh, beautiful Lantern from Ketamine.
Man, that was so close. I would really like to just go back at a certain point on my own and slow it down to see how close was that charm to landing. Because I seriously thought Efficient Valor would be CC'd by that.
No, me too. So they find their way out of that fight, and now with a few resources down the spray and pay, the Grandmasters, of course, the charm coming through, the quickness, those are not available. So any Baron fight that could potentially be looked for here, you got to wait it out.
Yeah, but you're only waiting for like another window of let's say
minute.
roughly 30 seconds, right? Like Grandmaster's Might already just a few seconds away from cooldown, Spray and Pray over half, and now as well as the quickness for CX Lotus also under half at this point. So they can just go back to looking for a fight, and I'd probably say 20 like 30 seconds right now.
Well, that's the 20 and 30 seconds that Dragons of the West has to capitalize. All right.
Yeah, but then what did they like? They didn't start pushing forward or getting forward vision down. They retreated back into their own jungle, which means that even though they win that theoretical fight, it's hard for them to get much done.
Sadly, there we do see the engage going to come through on to Fish and Valor. He's taken out. A lot of ultimates expended in the process there. With that being said, I mean, you've lost your mid lane priority, your pressure, the one themselves, and now you're pretty much going to lose Baron in the process.
Yeah, I mean, Fish and Valor not being there, it's definitely something that's going to be an issue. Although, as long as Nemesis is alive, there is the opportunity to look for that 50-50. He's going in, already checking to see how much life the Baron has.
Lotus, deep in the back.
That opportunity to,
Nemesis. Now as Odom following up here with the spray and pay, and he just cuts through this back line. Down Trump, the only one left alive. It doesn't matter.
They can't even get a Zodium right there. You can see he was forced to flash over the wall in the Baron pit because his entire team engaged. Yeah. He's the only one left standing there, and Baron's more than happy to keep hitting him. But so flash over the wall just to stay alive.
Yeah. Real quickly, Mr. Truelight, we're going to actually pull to a quick break here to devise some technical difficulty issues. So we'll be right back with you. Stay tuned and keep on watching because this game is very exciting. All right, folks, we're back at it. Those technical difficulties didn't stop us for long. Hopefully, we can bring you a better production, something that's a little bit more synced up in the face of style esports. But back to the point of these two teams, a fantastic fight around the barrier. A little bit of a cheeky flash coming from Azotium, going pretty deep there.
Yeah, I mean, he did it to stay alive because Baron was shredding him. He was in the back of the pit. Those spikes do a ton of damage. That's the death sentence, though.
I did, but where is the capitalization? Nemesis.
Oh no!
Azotium farmed out. We see the teleport through there from the follow up. Oh, they right onto Downtrum and finish that one. Strike on the Ketamine. Can't find its way through, but it doesn't matter. Escanor still finds knows we see the essence come over the wall. Barb just gets the sun and find the full team ace pretty much, except for her.
Yeah, and this time around, like, take a look at what happens. It starts off with the death sentence landing its way onto CX Lotus right here, and they try to take the fight. They try to get things going. Nemesis immediately goes in, but he can't get the Umbral Trespass down to get his life back, and then the CC happens. The jungler goes down. Donald Trump also falls, and it's one by one like dominoes. They keep taking more and more, and now Team Death Realm, they do end up cracking the base off of that fight.
Yeah, the base is now cracked, and they've got the potential here, and it's sad because
the punishment. I think the tower stayed.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, the egg remains intact, but the yolk is leaking, my friend. Let me tell you, it's looking a little dicey. Either way, the sad thing is that Dragons of the West does have the potential to punish heavily onto someone like Azotium. I mean, you see the dive; they're trying to come through in that one team fight. They actually managed it. The thing is, you've got to be really on point because you've got to dodge not only the taunt from Escanor, you've got to get out of the charm from Lotus, and then in the face straight of whether it be the counter counter-strike or the general stuns from the blades coming through from Barbara. I mean, there's so many just issues you run into in the face of Team Death Realm that it's just difficult.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's so hard for Dragons of the West to have any room to breathe in these fights, even though they thought they found something there. The CC on Death Sentence doesn't last long enough on Lotus, so the punish does end up happening. And that's just going to be a second Baron. They have no way of contesting.
They don't even look to contest it. It feels like they're just giving this one up for free. I mean, at this point, with the base being cracked in 27-4, I mean, 24-7. Yeah, there's the check coming through. Oh,
okay, it wasn't a bad True Shot Barrage.
It was like
not. It's the only hope that they had, you know.
I mean, Garen's splitting. I mean, you could look for a fight there. I mean, the typical thing to do there is you. I mean, I guess maybe that slipped under the radar there, which is kind of surprising. I mean, Baron's up. You should, have that on the docket for things that are going to be an issue, and that just wasn't on their plate, I guess.
I mean, I think at a certain point, they just don't have the vision control set up. They don't have any way of checking. I mean, Ketamine actually... Oh, wow. Wait, what? That didn't interrupt him. He took damage.
No.
He took like 100 damage right there. Oh, well.
There's definitely
pretty tragic. But anyway, so... Like, you can actually see Ketamine did throw a ward down. They instantly see that it's control warded. So I think off of that, they're like, okay, we can't walk forward. We have no idea who might be waiting in this brush for us. Our frontliner, who is this Garen, is not available, can't actually be here to tank or soak up anything. So maybe they just decided we have to concede it. Just let it go. Wait it out as long as possible. Look to stop the next dragon or something. But because I think Dragons of the West, they're kind of in a bit of a panic mode right now. Like, what is their option? What is their scaling to come back into the game?
I mean, they've got to look for some sort of pick here. I mean, they're going to do just that. Turning onto Bargrill, the heroic entrance is going to come immediately. No. Nemesis throwing out the Umbral Trespass. The taunt not quite going to come through, but the heal is massive. Sadly, he's going to get ripped to shreds in the process there as he finds his way into Escanor. Yeah, it's a shame there. Could not find the stun from Lotus on this Rakan, but you're going to see the knockup come through on Efficient Valor. Valor's looking for the deep backline here. Great death sentence to Demacian Justice to get the pull there. Efficient Valor now looking to cancel this one out, but a great knockup from Escanor prevents the Moonfall as we see Jake Gotti go down. That's going to be the 2-for-2 as it stands currently. And I'll say this, I mean, if they step up, Poppy Buck is looking really healthy.
Ooh, that's a death sentence.
Oh, fantastic taunt onto Donald Trump. The flash does come through, but a good movement there from Trump to get the shutdown onto Poppy Buck. And against all odds, Dragons of the West, they come out on top here of this fight. Yeah,
and you can see, I think it's because the fight got a little bit, they got split, right? Team Death Realm, some of them stayed towards the base while the other ones tried to stay back to make sure Zodium stays alive. And in the end, when Escanor is gone and so is Gotti, that means that Pappy Buck isn't really hard pressured, right? The only person who can look for an engage onto him is Bar Grill with Slice and Dice. There's no real option for him to go forward, though. Instead, he decides to go mid and take the inhibitor. But they see the Renekton mid. They make the call, okay, just try to get the kill. They end up locking Escanor down in that situation. They force Zodium away. He has nothing more he can do, even though his teammate's dying, because Pappy Buck in that entire fight stayed untouched.
Lotus caught out here, forced to use the quickness
with the TP
as well. Yeah, TP coming in pretty deep here, looking to see if we can find Escanor to move. Great play to prevent the taunt out there.
Yeah, and although they prevent the engage, now they are
Nemesis, he's got to go for the steal. Umbral Trespass to try and drag him away. He can't do it, and he's punished as a result. That's going to be the full soul point here on the Infernal. Zodium now looking for the chase. He throws down the swamp onto Ketamine. Down he goes. The spray and pray pumping out as much as possible. There's the heroic entrance as we see the deep dive from Bargrill. Flashes forward, gets the stun on Deficient Valor as they look for the escape. Taunt comes through from Escanor. Knockup as well. Donald Trump forced to flash out, but the leap strike follows anyways. That's going to be game here from Team Death Realm in what was an incredibly just dominating scaling comp.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see it right there. 12K gold lead in a 30-minute game. Team Death Round. They got the right comp and they executed very, very well. It was heroic of an effort on Nemesis's part at the very end, looking for the Smite Steal, but he couldn't land it in time. There's just too much CC. And that means Team Death Realm, they take game one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really, if I have to pin kind of that point where things really started to falter, it's got to start way, way back in draft, man. I mean, they gave themselves such a narrow window to work with, and you did see some success on Deficient Valor early, but it just didn't end up going anywhere. And I think a lot of the weakness is just having such a strong early that falls off so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And you take a look at the stats that we pulled up right there. Damage to champions. Although there was so much early pressure going on to Escanor, he very easily tops the damage chart. 26k on the Galio. The next closest person will be that Renekton pick, but we were talking it up a lot. I'm actually very, very impressed that Escanor was able to pull out so far ahead, considering the amount of pressure they put onto him in this game.
Absolutely. I think there was a lot stacked up against this guy. And to be honest, he handled it super, super well. We saw some faltering, especially with some great gains from Nemesis early. But other than that, I mean, his rotations, the heroic entrances coming through, setting up the engages, I mean, it just looked good all across the board. So really well played as a whole. I mean, any last thoughts given this game one, potentially looking to see what Dragons of the West need to pull out of the bag here for the second one?
Well, I mean, I think if you're Dragons of the West this time around, going into the second game, perhaps remove the Galio from play. It just synergizes really, really well with the ability to commit, but also the ability to play defensively. With Hero's entrance, you can keep the hyper carry Twitch alive, or you can follow up with Jax or Renekton diving forward, and you just have three really strong guys in the middle of your backline. The other thing I would say is you probably need to be drafting a little bit more of a reliable frontliner in the top lane. Garen, was able to get some damage down, was a split push threat to a certain degree, but like we said before, just very single target focused, and it becomes like very, very I guess monochromatic, right? Yeah. He can only do one thing.
Yeah. So all that being said, though, we're going to be taking it to a short little break as we get everything wrapped up and push towards the way into game two here. So we'll be right back as we go through that little bit of a loading process. Stay tuned and stick around. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Style Esports. We've still got Dragons up taking on Team Death Realm here in the Season 5, I believe, week something. Either way, currently, if you're just joining us, Dragons of the West take a defeat into Team Death Realm after such a destructive comp hits them hard. I'm still your play-by-play Zephyr, and I'm joined by the wonderful, the True Light as my color.
Hey, Zephyr. Like you said, Dragons of the West, they took a very hard loss in the previous game, and it was a completely dominant game from Team Death Realm. We are into that pro draft for the second game. And as you can see, there's no difference on the band so far. No. But Dragons of the West, they have adjusted. I do think they brought in a new AD carry after they cited that their normal AD carry is experiencing some serious connectivity issues. And off the back of that, they go for B1 Ashe.
Yeah, you're going to see the response with the Senna come through like literally immediately. Probably I'd like to see this pair through with a Leona now to secure that and just make that lane as strong as possible. But immediately seeing the difference in playstyle. I mean, I thought Israel's strong, but I also like to see the Ashe consistently too. And the fact that it's something a bit more scaling with a presence towards that mid to late game gives me the inkling of the feeling that maybe Dragons of the West were listening and maybe they're going to bolster up that late game.
Ooh,
I like that.
And I think the other thing you can see here, right? Team Death Realm, they go for the blind pick Urgot. I suppose they put pretty high priority on it. I think it was banned in the previous game. So Bargrill not going to be on that Renekton as he was previously, but instead on Urgot. And I think it's very, very fresh. Like Urgot in a good matchup or playing against a good Urgot is very, very, very annoying to deal with.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, lockdown potential into the bot lane. The Zyra Ashe combo, not very surprising. It does have its place currently in this meta. I will say if we have really strong lockdown or good presence in CC to negate some of that lockdown potential that can come through in response paired through with Senna, maybe even seeing the Alistar, I think it might come up short. But other than that, if you get a great, root come, I mean, that's a secured kill pretty much in the bot lane. I mean, the damage that Zyra provides is kind of gross, and that's a great response. That is a fantastic response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think the thing is for Team Death Realm in the context, okay, you see Ashe Zyra, right? Well, now you know they're going to play aggressively into you. And if you take something like Leona, as you mentioned previously, you're almost playing a game of chicken, right? And that's a case of like, okay, whoever blinks first probably going to lose. Ashe Zyra, it's probably more biased towards them because of how much early power they're going to be able to put down. Mm-hmm. So Team Death Realm in response are like, okay, you're going to pick Ashe Zyra. We pick Tahm Kench. If you try to engage on Senna, we'll just consume her out of the CC. If you try to take down Tahm Kench, well, after level 3, he has 2 health bars. It's very, very long time to kill the guy. So I like the response just as much as you do. Looking at these phase 2 bans, though, Orianna and Diana taken off by Team Death Realm, and Dragons of the West, hey, they did it. Took away that versatility that I really wanted to see them take off the table. Galio banned away.
Yeah, really strong mid laners all getting banned out here. There's not much left on the table, especially with the Zillion also being pulled as well. So we're going to see something completely new. You've got some major picks still available, whether it be the Akali that can come through. The Syndra hasn't been banned yet. Silas sadly is taken out. So just your general picks are still available. I'm curious to see. I mean, if I was Team Death Realm, I would like to see the Syndra. I feel like that's the strongest you can go with.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'd say like go for something like Syndra, just because like, you don't necessarily need to rely. Oh,
that's just as good. I called it as well. The Akali's still available. So
both picks definitely work very, very well in the current meta, so to speak. And I think the thing is, right, Akali does provide that degree of flexibility. You can either throw it up top or you can throw it to mid. I see it in both spots nowadays, like, just about equally. And I do like the Sejuani for Dragons of the West if they do end up locking it in, and there you go.
Yeah. This just gets harder for the kind of response that we need to see out of Lotus here on the Tahm Kench. They've got so many forms of CC that can come through. I mean, this is definitely this is when you spend your 1,300 gold tax and you get the Quicksilver Sash going.
Like personally, if I feel like I was going to say for Dragons of the West, if they are going to be looking to pick a top laner, because that means it's a Mordekaiser mid now, I would have preferred to see something like Ornn if you wanted to be like more team fight and defensively oriented, or like Aurelia if you wanted to be a little more offensively oriented. But they opt in with Fiora, which means they have two melee solo laners in combination with a Sejuani. Both of those solo laners in different ways able to help Sejuani stack up those stun stacks, which can set up a gank really, really well. Potentially punish an Urgot or an Akali for overcommitting. So I like the draft the Dragons of the West have put forward here. Team Death Realm, in response, they go back to the Jax pick that they had in the first game.
Yep, the Jax going to make its return. Honestly, I thought it did very well into the jungle there, which is surprising. Jax doesn't really see a lot of play back in the jungle given the slow pacing that's available. I'm a little surprised that you still had picks like Camille being available and some of the other rotations kind of still on the docket here for Dragons of the West. I honestly feel like that duelist potential, and given the power of some of these teams here, I think that definitely could have come through. So
yeah,
I still like the Fiora. I still like it. I think it's good. But it's comfort at that point.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. In regards to like I was thinking, like I said, like I was thinking like Aurelia, Ornn, Camille, as you mentioned, like all of those would have been fine picks in my opinion. Fiora definitely, once again, can work with it, and is once again another champion that if you get a lead, you are very, very hard to deal with. And Fiora, after the change to her lunge, I think, able to split push very, very well, especially just with that Triforce build. Once again, like the draft for Dragons of the West this time around. And I'm excited to see what they can do with it.
I think the Dragons of the West has filled in a lot of the gaps we saw into that first game. They definitely have given themselves more of a transition point now. And in terms of contesting, whether it be a Dragon, a Baron, the team fight presence of this team is definitely available. So it's going to be very, very front to back. You're going to have that Mords and Sedge really pushing out the limits here of this team. And then you're really going to be looking to see what the Ashe and Zyra can do. Meanwhile, that Fiora hopefully finds her way into that backline. The Death Realm, I'll see it. Team Death Realm, it's a little bit different. You still have some of that team fight oriented presence, but the protection, like we saw from last game, that's not quite there. And the engage potential definitely has decreased.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that they'd be far more comfortable with Dragons of the West trying to engage super hard onto a one or two members, like try to look for something like a pick and then try to capitalize on overcommitment. But the problem is, I agree with you, right? Like there's not much team fight.
Is you agree with me?
No, the problem for team Death Realm is that I agree with you.
I'm messing with you, True Light. I'm messing with you.
Josh, yeah. Like I just don't think that they have a whole lot that they're capable of doing in a team fight unless they are able to get an Urgot ult and CC multiple members with the AoE fear. Because barring that, the only hard AoE CC they have is Counter-Strike and Senna's Root. And neither of those things are super consistent or last long enough to be super, super meaningful unless you're instantaneously eliminating Ashe or Zyra.
Yeah, no, I think the burst potential is going to be a really huge question here for Team Death Realm because essentially they've got little rotation on terms of what's on the abilities for them, and you kind of need to blast guys like Mu on this Ashe or Ketamine on the Zyra before they can really retaliate, because you're going to see how quick Dragons just puts them into their clutches and then just runs with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But thinking about the lane-specific matchups, is that a Fiora mid? Like, taking a look here now. Wow. Into an Akali. I actually don't think I've seen mid lane Fiora.
I don't see mid lane Fiora. I think this is they've made the switch here to give
and they're sending Fish and Valor top.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I'm saying I actually think Fiora will end up in the mid lane because I don't see it working out for the Fiora pick into the Urgot, respectively. It doesn't. You're playing against a champ that wants you to engage on him and get close and fight him into that 350 kind of range, and Fiora does just that. So I mean, I've literally just pulled up the win rates here pretty quickly, and it follows my train of thought. Fiora does not perform very well into the Urgot. The Mordekaiser actually does like phenomenally better, which is no surprise. I mean, you've got
Yeah.
the extra range and the sustain to actually deal with the consistent poke of Urgot. So
Yeah, and I think the other deal, like for Mordekaiser Urgot specifically, is Urgot, the way he wants to fight an enemy melee champion is that he can abuse the fact that he has just a little bit more range than your typical melee. But Mordekaiser, on the other hand, if he's able to proc that passive or land the death, like his claw onto Urgot, it's very, very hard for Urgot to deal with that. And also, once he casts Death Realm, you take 10% of all base stats. So it works out pretty well for Mordekaiser. As I can see. I think the other thing is I really am interested to see how Fish and Valor is going to play the Fiora Kali matchup, because if it was going to be something like this, right? Like Fiora would not have been my first thought, to be fair. I think the reason they potentially are looking for it is just because Fiora is very, very capable of stacking Sejuani's stun passive. Because Q will apply the on hit effect, then you get the instant hit with E. That's also a slow, and then you get another Q or an E, and then like that's already 4 stacks.
It's a shame though. You do lose out on the presence of the Mordekaiser into this mid lane. You cannot deny the fact that Death Realm is one of the best tools for contesting objectives, given the presence you can use to take out the enemy jungler. So the fact that it's still available, but it won't really come through into that mid to late game unless we see some really divine teleports. I mean, either way though, I do think Dragons of the West do look a lot stronger here comp wise.
Yeah, I think their comp looks far more consistent, and this time around, it has a very clear identity and execution. This time around for Team Death Realm, I think they still have these things that they want to execute on, but the draft does, thinking about every single champion in the composition as a whole, it doesn't seem super consistent or congruent with a overarching win condition.
Yeah. With all that being said, though, we're going to be taking it to a short break as we get everything wrapped up into the neat little bow that we can bring you as a present here on Style Esports. So stick around and stay tuned for what could potentially be the last game of the night. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Style Esports. If you're just joining us, we've got the Dragons of the West taking on the currently one up in this series team, Death Realm. I'm still your play-by-play caster, Zephyr, joined by the lovely, the True Light as my color.
Thanks for the warm welcome, as always, Zephyr. And in contrast to the first game that we had, very standard positioning, so to speak, for both teams. They're both, oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, cheeky. Go for it. Go for it.
Cheeky Fission Valley.
Sadly, that's going to switch around.
Yeah, I mean, he looked for the lunge to just proc that vital. Didn't find it, unfortunately, for Fission Valor right there. But as you can see, it looked to be a standard 5-point, but the Nemesis actually just getting onto the map at this moment. There's no indication that they could have of this, other than the fact that you see that Fission Valor is mid lane, not Nemesis. But once again, no serious punish for either of those moves. Yeah.
It's weird, but I don't think, sadly, neither team was really looking for the engage, and that's really all 5-point is usually for. So, no punish going to come through either which way.
Yeah, absolutely. Both junglers starting on their bottom side camps this time around. And I think with Azodium and CX Lotus on the Senna and Tom Kench here, you can see Azodium has Cleanse, in addition to having the Get Out of Jail Free card that is Tom Kench. So not expecting anything too hyphy to happen from the bottom lane of Team Death Realm this time around.
I'll definitely be looking at the mid lane because look at that. There's great flash knock up there. That's gonna be the double flashes there though. Escort does not have that on the docket here for the rest of these next 5 minutes. So big presence now on Nemesis's hands. See if he can make a return.
Yeah, and I think that's just very, very intelligent from Nemesis and Fission Valor right there, right? Because 5-point strike on the Akali is going to be pushing the wave if it hits multiple minions, which means Fission Valor should feel very motivated to look for something alongside Nemesis. You force the flash from the Akali early, and that's fine if Nemesis is going to burn the flash there and there's not going to be a kill, because you can just come back later with the Arctic Assault, look for even more. And yeah, Fission Valor on this Fiora actually able to stay pretty all right through proccing those vitals. You get the health back in addition. So yeah, not too worried for the guy so far in this mid lane, shoving into the tower as well.
Waiting for that 3 to kind of hit on Athenor before start seeing the trades start kind of being unweighted. So that's going to be my next point of contention. Could potentially see ganks towards the top side. I noticed that Bar Grill is actually doing a great job of punishing Donald Trump out here. I will say, though, he's sustaining the lane quite efficiently.
Ooh, mid lane gank again this time.
This time going to be a return here from Team Death Realm. Nemesis is available. They go for the flash and the follow-up. That turret shot, though, that's going to be punishing Jay Gotti for the aggressive play. Now Nemesis to look for Escanor. There's the stun and that chunk of damage coming through. That's the double for Nemesis.
Double kill on Sejuani. Granted, it's not your solo lane, your carry on the Fiora.
It's worth it.
But Sejuani is going to get tankier and tankier, and that means it's going to be very, very hard to kill. And off of the damage tweaks that they've been doing for the champion in the past couple of months, you really got to be careful with the, the damage output that Sejuani can lay down. And off those 2 turret shots, it's a fantastic punish for Nemesis, just being there at the right place, right time.
Speaking of right place, right time, find his way on the Gotti. There's the stun going to come through, and there's really no escape for this guy, especially not having flash. This time, the kill finds its way onto Fission Valor. We've got a game on our hands here, True Light.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Gotti, he's not on the map. He's not going to get to his next camp for roughly another, let's say, 20 seconds or so. Nemesis goes forward into the red side red side top camp. Looking for those Raptors, starting to create a little bit of a lead for himself, even in terms of farm against this Jax. And that's going to be very, very frustrating if you're Jax. You want to be able to clear, you want to be able to out-farm your opponent. So things going from bad to worse for Gotti in this situation.
Yeah, definitely not looking good, especially since the Jax not being one of the more meta-esque junglers, taking a lot more scale up. It's going to take some time for him to find his route back into this game, given that, you're looking for him to complete that Triforce, whether it be the Cinderhawk. I mean, it's not an easy path.
And, silver lining, so to speak, for Gotti. Jax is a champion that wants to scale, like, no matter what you do. Now, I'm not sure if jungle is the right place for that champion nowadays, but he definitely has that option. And as long as the rest of his team doesn't lose super hard, he should be okay. But like you said, with that little cheer there in the mid lane, Escanor, even though it's died once, is down like 11 farm, doing so much competitive damage with Fish and Valor here.
Yeah. I mean, he has to at this point. I mean, you do not need to let that lane kind of spiral out of control. And I will say, the Kali, I mean, Riot is a for-fun company here. They definitely give her the tool set she needs to be one of the better duelists in the game.
Yeah, as you can see, actually, Escanor opted to take the Electrocute this time around. Oh, Root does land, but no real follow-up.
Too far.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is Escanor opted to go for something that you typically don't see super often, at least in my experience, on the Akali, which is to go for the Electrocute. And I feel like it's a right call. You're going into something that is also melee. I don't think you necessarily need the fleet footwork as much as you would for a ranged matchup, and I like that choice from Escanor on this side.
Yeah. I definitely think it's one of the available options to play through there. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see if he can really make the bursty impact that he needs to. One big thing to worry about is the Grand Challenge is now up for Fish and Valor. So you're always going to have to wonder if the sustain that comes through punishes it out efficiently. Meanwhile, though, fights aside, Team Death Realm's on to this first dragon with really no contention.
Yeah, and it's going to be a single stack Ocean Drake. It's not going to give you a whole ton of regen, although it never really hurts a whole ton. You're in the top lane, though. Oh, that's a 1v1.
Yeah, never mind the top lane. I mean, he's got the Death Realm chunking. Oh, he flashed right into the smash there. And he's going to go down as a result, but that's a bit of a shame. A little bit of a misplay there from Bargrill.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, for Bargrill in this situation, he might have been on the very outer edge of that Mordekaiser Death Realm. But the fight breaking out towards the blue boss. They're going to
look to punish this guy. The Flash going to be out of this one. Counter-strike very deep, Gotti. Your exhaust coming through. Nemesis picks up the return. Now Escanor looking to punish. Heal there from Moon as a response.
But the TP came through
with the Death Realm. Throwing that one there. Moon going to be over the wall with Escanor to pick up the response. Now Axiodum going to be punishing out Fish and Valor as he tries to come through here. Triple kill goes over to Bargrill. Even though this guy finds punishment in the face of Donald Trump, it does not matter.
Bargrill with the 500 IQ. I'm going to die to my laner so I can TP into the fight. And then he picks up 3
speed recalls. There you go. Big man.
Oh my god. You can't make this up. But anyway. Thinking about that 1v1 where Bargrill did end up losing there. One thing that works really, really hard against him is that Donald Trump just insta-builds Bramble Vest, and that messes with Urgot something fierce.
Nah, Urgot's he's in a rough spot, bud.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after getting 3 kills, I think he's okay. You know, he has the blue buff. He's going to be able to cast his spells as much as he wants. So
I don't think you can take the 1v1 still, though, at least.
No, okay, probably not. But you take a quick look at the gold here. You can actually see he is roughly 500 up over Donald Trump. You know, 3 kills will do that for you.
That's crazy.
So I think Bargrill, he's very, very happy, and so is the rest of his team, finding so many kills just off of the mispositioning and really like funneling one by one, almost in the case of Dragons of the West right there. Things have been going so well for them in this early game, but that was just like a fantastic series of punishes to come through, not only from Escanor, but also from Bargrill. And I just thought it was a really, really wild decision from Gotti to try to leap strike in with the counter strike as well.
Yeah, I did not expect that to like come out in favor of
top lane coming through.
Oh yeah, Nemesis. I mean, I don't think they're gonna really lock down Bargrill here. He's gonna be under turret, and yeah, they're gonna tank that one out. So no die potential. Oh Bargrill steps up a bit too far. He was being very aggressive, looking for the punish there. Nemesis. Oh come on! All you had to hit was the Fear Beyond Death. I mean, now you're really gonna be facing it into the punish there. Dear. He gets a good dash over the wall. He does get the shutdown though. Oh
he
my
was able to get the 1v. Like, okay. Personal opinion, shouldn't have stayed there.
Yeah, a little aggressive. I mean, hold the opinion. hard aggression here into the mid lane. Escanor taking a huge trade against Fish and Valor. Goes! He's able to punish though with the perfect execution. Fantastic movement there on the positioning.
Yeah, very, very well played. Like, I guess you could say across the map, so to speak, for Team Death Realm right there. Bar Grill able to get a trade of 1-for-1 in a 1v2. Now solo kill in the mid lane. I think where things fall apart a little bit is that they wanted to look for an engage with Zodium and CX Lotus, but it's very, very hard to engage onto an Ash Zyra lane. Yeah. So don't really fault them for missing that. But yeah, you can see Bar Grill working towards that Black Cleaver, just being the core item.
So much. He'll actually probably be able to take a fight here against Donald Trump, but that layer Andrews is making its way as soon as possible. And once that comes through, I mean, he's already a 2-0 Mordekaiser. That's rough as it gets.
Yeah.
Ooh, good job. He's going to use the Shroud to fight this one out. I mean, that's kind of the buff that you get on the Akali. I mean, you can duel anyone when you've got that available.
Yeah, and you can see, actually, Fish and Valor tried to proc the Vital at that last little second, but because of that, I guess, movement speed that you have as Akali, the versatility to have that Shroud available, able to dodge the Vital proc, which means Fish and Valor can't continue to take the fight. Otherwise, it's 7-7 in kills. There's only a 600 gold gap. It's in the favor of Dragons of the West. And as far as things go, I think that's kind of to be expected. They definitely drafted pretty darn well this time around. Yeah. Their lead could be a lot more massive, everything being considered, though. So a good job on Team Death Realm's part as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Team Death Realm just managing the best they can, but they're going to be dealing with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow first off. We see the stopwatch used immediately. Can Gotti make the response? Stranglethorn going to come through there, get the knockup, great counter-strike to get the massive stun onto Moore there, but the Glacier Vision stops this man straight in his tracks. He's going to keep looking for the engage, but he can't hit it. That's going to be the double kill finding its way there onto that. Meanwhile, in the mid lane here, Donald Trump punishing out Escanor and Bar Grill, respectively, as I looked for that kill onto Fish and Valor. Escanor gets out. Sadly, Bar Grill does not. But with all that being said, 4 members still being left alive here for Dragons of the West means an easy Mountain Drake.
Yeah, Gotti, he went so far. He tried so hard, but it didn't even matter in the end. Couldn't find that leap strike to lock down Moo, and that turns into a double kill for Ketamine on this Zyra. I think going to be working towards its own Leandry's Torment, because Zyra with that item is a complete menace, and all you really need to do is get some plant autos down, and you've contributed to a team fight. Otherwise, it didn't look terrible from CX Lotus, using the stopwatch very well right there to stop the aggression as long as possible. But that translates into 3 kills for the side of Dragons of the West, and they get their first Dragon stack as well.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
Nemesis back with the reoccurring tank in the bot lane. You've got the Spirit available for Axiom. He tries to blast going over the wall, but that root and the pressure is going to come through no matter what. Sustaining, he's trying on the move. Doesn't matter. First kill finding its way onto this Ashe.
Yeah, they give the kill over to Moo right there. I completely agree with that move, so to speak. Anyway, when you are a Zodium on this Senna, right? Uh-oh. No,
that's a lane swap.
Yeah, look at that. Fish and Valor finally taking Fiora where she typically belongs.
Exactly.
But I actually think, Bar Grill's happy with that, right? I don't think that Fish and Valor is happy. Yeah, Fish and Valor is not necessarily in the spot you want to be. The only thing I can think of doing, though, is that they decided to put Mordekaiser into that mid lane where he should be able to have a higher degree of impact on the rest of the map.
Oh, yeah.
As you can see, though, Bar Grill does have that Black Cleaver completed, so he's going to be continuously pressuring Fish and Valor here in this case. Not a whole ton for the Fiora to get done. Otherwise,
it's a relevant sacrifice. I mean, the one for Fiora, you could deal with it. The 3-0 Mordekaiser on the docket.
Yeah, but everything being considered, though, something that I think Dragons of the West do need to look out for, though, is Escanor is currently 3-1-4 on this call. They're working towards that Hextech Gunblade. Going to be a lot of healing for that champion, especially because the Gunblade active gives you a targeted slow. Akali is very, very effective with that item because it gives you AD and AP, and she scales with both. It gives you a little bit of CC. She's happy to get that. And it gives you a lot of healing, which she absolutely loves. So once that Gunblade is completed, as you can see, she's walking out of base with it. Potentially gonna be looking for those hard fights to just duck in and out of Shroud, try to get the assassination onto Mu or Ketamine as the game goes on.
I think that's one of the few options we see here for Team Death Realm to find their way back into it. Great picks can come through here from Escanor, and if he plays around these team fights efficiently, taking advantage of some of the prowess of Lotus and Bargrail being those frontline monsters, I think we could actually see Team Death Realm take some of these fights, but that does not change the fact that the Mordekaiser, respectively, just looks just as disgusting.
Well, the lane got swapped back. So you can see Fish and Valor not back there. Jay Gotti is actually backing on a ward here. They know that he still has that Rift Herald available, but it does seem like the game's going into a bit of a lull as there's nothing to quite take on the map. I mean, there's nothing really to fight over.
Quote unquote lull, the fight gonna come through here. You discussed it yourself. The Gunblade's available. Escanor take advantage of extra bit of damage he's got on his belt now. Absolutely decimates Fish and Valor.
Yeah, and you just need to 100% respect the power of Akali with Deathblade. Like, there is just not much you can do, and you think you take her low, and then all of a sudden she heals everything back. You can see already back to roughly 65% health here. The rest of now they're popping the Rift Herald, and I think that's not quite going to get the kill onto the tower just yet.
No.
But it's going to get very close.
I will say I don't like the rotation back, putting Fish and Valor back into the mid. I feel like you said earlier, you have so much presence putting the Mord in that mid lane, so he has the potential to rotate, take advantage of the Death Realm and the lead he has garnered for himself. Pushing him into Bargrail, I mean, that's exactly what they want. They want him to have less and less presence on this map, so you have people like Jax and Senna continue to scale up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is that even considering the possibility of either of these top laners TPing in, they have to do it 100% out of vision, right? Because if they TP within vision of another, Bargrail is just going to go forward with that E, or flip over. I think it's called, Disdain. Flip over with that stun to interrupt the TP. And then Donald Trump has Death's Grasp available, or Death's Hand, rather, to pull Bargrail out of a potential TP for that Urgot. So they're kind of just trapped here with one another, and there's not much they can do, and we're in a pause.
Yeah, we are in a pause. With that being said, just to make sure that we don't run into any issues here within the future, we are going to go to a little bit of a break and make sure that we get everything technically synced back up, even if it's going to be ready in just a second. So we'll be right back as soon as possible. And we are back, bringing you back to this game here between Dragons of the West and Team Death Realm. Currently, Team Death Realm into the series is 1-up. The Dragons of the West definitely look like they're leading this game, having on the belt a little bit of a 2,000 gold advantage.
Yeah, and like as you mentioned, they have a 2K gold advantage, but that's the gold advantage they've been sitting on for a good little bit here. TP coming in the river.
Yeah, Donald Trump, big presence here. You do see a great Death Realm to push Escanor out of this fight. He's going to use the perfect execution to draw this out further. Bargrill now in a great position, but he's actually going to be stunned out here by Nemesis in the process. Jay Gotti goes for the re-engage with the counter-strike. Sadly cannot find Fish and Valor, and as a result, Grand Challenge is going to be procced out. Meanwhile, the chase ensues here as Nemesis and Donald Trump, they look to just lock down someone, but they cannot find it. Either way, it's going to be one kill going towards the side of Dragons of the West and what is also the Dragon now. Oh, never mind. Trump going for the flash. Grill low. Moo with the kill. Sadly, can't find any additional slow there.
Yeah, and in that particular situation, what happened was they tried to get aggressive. They tried to look for a pick before taking the fight. And I'm talking about Team Death Realm here. But what happens is that Donald Trump casts his ultimate onto Escanor. Escanor tried to just shuriken flip over the wall to safety, but I'm guessing that with the Death Realm's AoE, the circle might have just been up against the wall. There was no way to get over it, which means he actually had to use perfect execution defensively, and then that tool isn't available for the ensuing team fight. There's no way to lock up Fish and Valor. Gotti goes down, and that means that they get the easy second dragon, as well as an additional kill.
Yes, they do. I will say the scaling potential here across the board just not really coming up. The Jax still hasn't found his way onto his Trinity Senna, sitting at 28 stacks at 20 minutes. That is abysmal for what you need to be at this point. So I feel like some of the comp that they have entitled for themselves, I mean, the window is still available for them, but you've got Dragon of the West. They push it back and back and back, and they're giving themselves more time to finish this game out.
Oh, dear.
Finish this game out. Massive Glacial Prison there. Flash and Cleanse used immediately. They're going to turn and shove the Shadow onto the repeat there. Moo, they're trying to kite this one through and through to pump out some sort of damage, but this Senna just isn't there yet. Doesn't have the punish required.
Yeah, I mean, I think the landscape in that particular fight for Team Death Realm is just to stay alive, and they do that properly. The Stranglethorns doesn't get the knockup, which means they're not able to lock up CX Lotus. And to touch on something that you mentioned, right? Azodium is below 40 stacks at 20 minutes here on this Senna. And is that his fault? Not necessarily. I think one thing to be considered is the fact that, okay, you're into a double ranged matchup as a Senna carry, and it's a double ranged matchup that's going to be very, very aggressive on you. Therefore, it's hard to get those soul stacks off champions. But then in addition to that, Senna's soul generation on this patch got hard nerfed. It's very, very difficult for her to get souls from last hitting creeps at this point. So it's really, really hard for Azodium to get those soul stacks through. And I think that's it's a bit more indicative of a problem that Senna's experiencing at the moment in the meta, where she can't be as strong as a carry pick. And it does raise a little bit of a question mark in my head why even competitive teams continue to put that priority towards a carry Senna.
Well, there's definitely different routes for the Senna pick. I definitely think you can go with the Feasting Senna. That's still available to come through at any given point. We do see that played into the pro play if you've got a strong support matchup in your favor. I also personally think that the gold value you do obtain from farming can work its way out if you do manage to find your way through these team fights and see yourself securing some of those kills that get you that lead. But other than that, I think playing from behind on Senna is very, very difficult, especially when you're going against.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, playing a Senna from behind is really, really difficult. You can actually see that Azodium has the Muramana completed and is actually working towards an Edge of Night. So you can just deny the one additional ability in addition to having to cleanse and Tahm Kench. I think that's just so indicative of how Team Death Realm feels about the composition that Dragons of the West have together here. They need to be able to deny CC. But thinking about itemization, one thing that's really, really important for these compositions, I can understand Gotti keeping his warding trinket because he's Jax, right? You can leap strike to a ward, but it's 22, almost 23 minutes into the game. CX Lotus, you need to have sweeper. Like, he's still sitting on the warding trinket, and that's a pretty substantial misplay as a support.
Yeah, no, not going to be taking advantage of any of the vision, and that was something I actually felt like they kind of did well into that first game, so it's a bit surprising to see that it's not coming through now. Either way, I mean, it's one back, it's one quick fix, so hopefully we do see that come through from Lotus.
Yeah. And like, in addition to CC denial, so to speak, whoa, that is a ton of damage.
Nice.
But yeah, in addition to that CC denial,
wait, they actually go for the follow-up. Yeah, Quicksilver Sash used. Gotti, no, he's not going to go for the follow-up, but that's a big issue here now, looking towards this Drake that's going to be spawning here shortly. You don't have Escanor available. It's going to be a 4v5.
Absolutely, and without an Escanor, it doesn't have anything like TP, so that means they need to stall for at least another 20 seconds if they hope to contest for the dragon fight.
It's too late.
Although, yeah, it looks like they can't even look for anything here. There's complete control on the part of Dragons of the West, but they go in afterwards.
Yeah, after. I mean, you're going to see the quick rate to get the presence of Nemesis shut down. Mind you, he doesn't have Glacial Prison anymore, so they can make the escape. Bargrail, though, they're going to go for the flash on this guy. He dashes back in. Donald Trump finds the kill. String of Thorn going to get the massive knockup onto CX Lotus there. Huge counter-strike as the double kill finds its way onto Mord. That's going to be the triple as we see all that re-engage from Jay Gotti. I mean, that's 3 kills now in the pocket of Mord. We do see Ketamine go down in the process, but 3-1, that's, I mean, no comparison. That's a setup for Baron at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. It did look like for a little bit there that Dragons of the West, they completely funneled into that little corridor in the jungle.
Right.
But there's just no real punish. Pretty much the entirety of Team Death Realm at this point is substantially behind enough to like where any of their AoE
just don't have the damage.
Yeah. Like Azodium did find a pretty decent ultimate, right? Like the Dawning Shadow, I think, hit pretty much every single member with its damage, but there was also no way for Escanor to get into the fight. Bar Grill got pulled in, couldn't get anything done. So yeah, like, I think the issue for Team Death Realm right now is that they're just really, really hard pressed to find something to get even a small advantage off of, because their composition kind of lacks an identity, so to speak, especially when your jungler is so far in the hole. It's really, really hard to get much done as this Jax that Gotti is on.
There's only so much you can do with quote-unquote a scaling comp when you're playing into one that is also scaling, that has a lot more CC potential. The engage is on their side. I mean, it's just rough all around. This just all ends here. And the fact that Baron is now in their hands. I mean, Escanor here, he looks for a good play. He gets the perfect execution, but he runs straight into turret. Jay Gotti follows up to get the return there, but the Mord is going to punish as a result. Leap Strike pushing him further and further away, but the rest of this team is punished as a result. Moo goes down. I mean, we saw Bargo go down into the hands of Moo there. That's going to be double as they also take down Lotus, and with 30-second timers on all these guys, I mean, they could push towards the end at this point.
Yeah, you can see Baron buff still is active, and there's no way for Azodium to safely wave clear against this composition. The only person they took out was Ketamine, which means the Ashe is still able to free hit. The Fiora, with Triforce completed, still able to free hit as well. And you can actually see here, like, something that I do want to point out. Donald Trump only has 1 damage item completed. It's just the Leander's Torment. But he is 6-0-4. He is an unkillable god on this Mordekaiser at the moment. And there is just no way to get through and take him down.
I mean, there's a level difference across the board here on literally every single champion from the side of Dragons of the West. I mean, XP-wise here, the Team Death Realm doesn't even come close this game, and the scaling potential just is not in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely not. The the scaling, so to speak, would be through Azodium on this Senna, but as you can see, immediately after getting that Muramana completed, went for Edge of Night. There's not a whole ton of damage coming through, but in addition to that, what is Senna going to do in the face of a Mordekaiser with Thornmail, in the face of a Sejuani with Tabai, Lock of the Iron Solari, and working towards a Thornmail? It's just so hard for Azodium to get any damage pretty much onto three members here. And now Escanor in a really rough spot, able to get away.
He's able to get away, thankfully. The ninja's mobile. Crazy thought. But they could look for the potential re-engage. Jay Gotti is up there now, and you do have CX Lotus. Yeah, he's going to use Abyssal Voyage, I think, to go up towards there. Dawning Shadow comes through immediately. Jay Gotti is very far forward here. We're going to see the rotation of Donald Trump. He's coming through with a grand challenge. You don't even need it. Fission Valor, absolutely massive. Now Donald Trump has finally arrived in the face of CX Lotus. He's going to pull this man back. Meanwhile, Fission Valor going for the engage. You throw the Shroud down, but I think that's it for Escanor. He tries to use the E to get a bit further away. Flashes is massive, but meanwhile, Ketamine is so deep into the red side jungle here. That's going to look to be a punish, hopefully, onto Escanor. Yep, Fission Valor for the double kill. Now that's 3 members down here on the side of Team Death Realm. And sadly, this could be game. They just look for top, look for mid, pushing these inhibs.
Yeah, you can see Mu and Nemesis on that dragon, and they do get the Infernal Soul this time around. The triple stack on the Infernal Soul, that's a lot of bonus AD and bonus AP, and I do have to compliment Fish and Valor right there, being so disciplined. As a Fiora,
Frank from Bargrill on the Fish and Valor.
Fear is going to happen.
Fear beyond death. He goes down. There's the fear on the Donald Trump. He's in the death room with him. I don't know if he can survive this long. He's going to get those extra stacks. Jake Gotti and Azodium trying to kite this man out. The stun. There's going to be but meanwhile, your base is getting broken in here. Lotus is going to be taking the brunt of that damage as Escanor finally arrives. He's going to hit with the Glacial Prison there. Mu going to kite out Escanor the best of his ability as we see the Zonia's expended. He's going to eat out of the wall. Meanwhile, a great root coming through from Azodium to punish.
The arrow!
The arrow from Mu! Meanwhile, Azodium picking up that kill and they punish. Mu, though, going to be taken out as well. 80 for 80. Ketamine, the only one left alive here from Dragons of the West in the base. Cannot finish out the game yet. Well, he's playing it really aggressive, though. I mean, you're going to be punished for that. Strangle Through does come through, but that's the ace for the side of Team Death Realm. A bit of a nasty ace, if I will say.
That was an incredibly messy fight. Oh, my word. Starting off, that's actually one interaction I was so curious about. If Urgot is able to pull somebody with the fear beyond death, but then gets ulted by Mordekaiser, what happens? And Survey says the answer is the fear still happens. And that little bit of the fear time gives Jay Gotti and CX Lotus just enough time. Donald Trump doesn't get the bonus stats from killing Bargrill. The Death Realm ended by that point. So much gold went onto this. Jax able to get the wit's end. Tower being the MVP and last hitting Mu, who found a fantastic arrow to take out Escanor. But all in all, it ended up being a 5 for 3 trade in favor of Team Death Realm. And, potentially you're going to start seeing this Jax start to scale. Jay Gotti actually has a level up over Nemesis at this point. That's off of the farming as well. You can see 234 farm to the 171 of the Sejuani. But Dragons of the West, they still know they're in the driver's seat, and they start this Baron up.
Ooh. Yeah, the Baron going to come through here. I don't think the contest. They try to get the Dawning Shadow off. Sadly, the steal does not pull out.
Wait.
That's a massive engagement. There's a void. Jay Gotti deep in the backline trying to get onto Ketamine there. Sadly, the fear beyond death's going to be going to massive fear, but deep in the backline, Escanor's punished by Donald Trump, and the collapse comes through as Fish and Valor just shreds through this backline. That's going to be the triple on Fish and Valor, and that itself is going to be the game here for Dragons of the West.
Team Death Realm, they went for the hero play, but all they found was failure, and that is going to be Dragons of the West firing back and going to take this series to a Game 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic play here from Dragons of the West. Honestly, little to no mistakes across the board. Massive praise towards Donald Trump on the board. Huge potential from Nemesis, setting up all of these ganks. Fish and Valor, while he had it rough in the mid, he definitely came back and, as we just saw, went for that triple in such a dominating fashion. And of course, the bot lane, Moo being so oppressive on the Ash. I mean, all across the board looking so different from the first game.
Yeah, and like I guess you could just say it's just the same story, but you swap teams on blue side. So much pressure thrown towards Fish and Valor at a certain point ends up doing the most damage on his team on this Fiora. And it's by a very, very significant margin. 27k, no one else in the game even piercing 20. The Fiora did very, very well at a certain point, and that's the power of max health true damage. But everything to be considered, I did not think that fight in the Nexus, in the base of Team Death Realm, was going to go the way it did, especially off of that beautiful arrow that Moo landed, although he just ended up being in tower range, wasn't able to stay alive. The punishes did come through, and I like that Team Death Realm, they played it ambitiously. They decided, we're gonna take the make or break. If we lose, we go to game 3. If we win, we stay alive. And we see the result. We are in that game 3 now, and that was a very, very entertaining game.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of potential shown here from Dragons of the West. This time in the first game, it was more so akin to a stomp, but this one they showed that they've got a better style that works for them. The early game presence just wasn't kind of the move, and they turn it around and they show us that late game works a whole lot better. So big punishment coming through, but now that last game, the third game, going to be the deciding factor between these two teams, and we've seen both of them perform definitely very adequately here in tonight. So it's definitely really up in the air. So with all that being said, though, we're going to be taking it to a short break as we get everything wrapped up, as we try to get you that little present we consider this third game on production. So we'll be right back as we get everything set up. So stick around and stay tuned. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Style Esports. We've still got Dragons of the West taking on Team Death Round, but now both of these teams are tied into the series, both one up. Going to be finishing out here in this final game 3 to just put it to rest and see who really is going to take home that win. I'm still your play-by-play caster, Zephyr, joined by the lovely, the True Light as my color, and we're right into draft.
Yeah, and as you can see, Team Death Realm, after taking that loss in the previous game, they have adjusted. They took the Mordekaiser off the table, and they first pick the Volley Bear. Can be flexed to either top or jungle. Very interesting. Solid first pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has its presence as being a pretty strong gauge tool. The damage can come through if you do get it going pretty hard and strong here in the early game. But meanwhile, as we saw on Tamu last game, that Ashe is going to make a reappearance here, and it was very, very strong. So I kind of want to see the change now from the Death Realm. I didn't like the Senna. I want to see, is there anything else on the docket, even though that is your stereotypical counter here?
Well, I mean, I don't think the Senna was terribly effective. I think that's partially because it was paired with the Zyra, which makes the Ashe Zyra lane very, very punishing for Senna. Because the moment you get caught out, it's really, really hard to deal with. But whoa, that's another pick that has been banned pretty much the entirety of this series. So Team Death Realm, they are deciding to lock in some strong solo lanes for themselves, even possibly ensuring they're going to get counterpicked. But perhaps they want to put the priority on it.
I mean, at a certain point, if you're good at a certain champion and it works. I mean, you're going to potentially go into your counter, so you're going to have to deal with that no matter what. But, it can find its place. Meanwhile, the Death Realm going to start securing a bit of that bot line for themselves. They've got the Thresh going to be finding its way onto Lotus here. That's going to be the first time we see him dabbling into the hook champs.
Yeah, so Thresh, I think, is just another pick that is designed to keep whatever AD carry Team Death Realm chooses to lock in really, really safe. But by early locking the Sylas, just to go back on talk about that, it kind of puts Dragons of the West in this dare, dare situation, which is their Team Death Realm's okay, pick whatever you want, go ahead. Because we have Sylas now, we are going to take your ultimates. We're going to take that Ashe arrow, and we're going to punish you with your own ultimate. Or we're going to take Maokai ulti, and we can punish you with that instead. So I think Dragons of the West, they're kind of maybe scrambling a little bit, trying to figure out, okay, what do we want to lock in here to make sure we don't hurt ourselves too much? The response partially is the Graves. I don't think that Graves ulti is super huge for Sylas. But otherwise, the Maokai and the Ashe definitely worked very well for him. But yeah, like the bans did come through very top lane oriented. For
Really? All four?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, there you go. Which does indicate to me that they think the Volibear will be the jungle pick, which is typically what you see more often than not. But Dragons of the West, wow, they go for a Kassadin.
Well, looking to counter out immediately. They know that's through Escanor here, so the Kassadin finding its way onto Fish and Valor really is no surprise to me, punishing some of that additional magic damage you deal with and being the late game hyper scaling carry that can really collapse and destroy teams. So definitely gives this kind of ticking time bomb, as I like to call it, towards the side of the Death Realm where, I mean, once you get to 16 on Kassadin, you are just revolting to deal with. Meanwhile, the bot lane, something very surprising coming through, the Kai'Sa making an appearance, as well as the Urgot finding its hands back into Bargril.
Yeah, I mean, like I think Bargril looks very, very comfortable on the Urgot, so to speak. And there is like that like fringe possibility, right? Where it's just like, okay, we're gonna send Urgot mid instead. And through that, we're gonna have like an AD matchup into a Kassadin, and we're gonna have Sylas up in the top lane. But ooh, Alawi on the side of Dragons of the West. I actually think that's pretty punishing for either Sylas or Urgot. It's definitely not fun for either of them to, or really anyone to lane into an Alawi, especially when she lands the challenge, like the challenge spirit or something like that, onto whoever she's laning against. There's so much damage coming through from those tentacle slams. Very interesting draft, I think, for both teams. Particularly on Dragons of the West, on Team Death Realm, locking Kai'Sa into Ashe is typically something a lot of people are going to say is a bad idea. And for Dragons of the West, that means that's a Maokai support. So really, really interesting moves from both teams.
Hey, that works. I'm fine with that. That's hard engage in the bot lane, all right?
Yeah, it's targeted CC.
I will say I'm a little scared for the top matchup here. I mean, I'll say this. Urgot's strong, right? Just to touch on it. But he has constantly gotten countered now. First, going into the Mord, which is a just disgusting counter to Urgot, and then now the Alawi coming through. The thing was, Bargril found success even though he went into the counter in front of him. But the issue is, at the end of the day, it's still a counter. You're still, as the game scales on, it gets harder and more punishing to stick through in that lane. I just don't think, compared to the first game, where we had such a massive presence from the top side with the Renekton, it's just not the same with the Urgot. I mean, maybe it'll prove me wrong. Maybe we'll see early presence. Maybe the rotations will come through. These team fights will look fantastic. But I mean, draft-wise, Dragons of the West are just pulling out all the stops here.
Yeah, I mean, I do really think that, like, this is game 3, right? We've effectively been reduced to a best of 1 situation. And so both of these teams, they are trying something new going into this third game. And I really want to see how this plays out. Like, particularly, I think the bottom lane is not going to be super fun for Team Death Realm, but Kai'Sa does scale up really, really hard. At the same time, Kassadin is just going to Rift Walk all over you at a certain point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're going to get punished no matter what in a certain situation. So that's always going to be a problem. I do think the Sylas, this is what I see from Team Death Realm actually as a whole. Other than the Kai'Sa, you've got this small advantage in the early game where you can capitalize on some of these lanes before they get ahead. But at a certain point, you're never really going to kill the Kassadin. You're never really going to kill the Alawi. That bot lane, especially with having Maokai being the just absolute monster, comes for lockdown potential. It just feels like if the Death Realm doesn't find early success before you have some of these major windows, 6, it just will not work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm really thinking about another thing that's just in general for Kai'Sa, like you really rely on the hard CC of your teammates, and every single member of Team Death Realm does have at least minimum one form of hard CC, which can definitely work out quite well in terms of getting those plasma stacks through. The only problem for Kai'Sa, I think, is you just have to be so cognizant of where the enemy team is. But then in addition to that, always having Maokai Twisted Advance available, his W, as that targeted lockdown tool, it makes it so hard to execute for Kaisa, because if, like, assuming that Ketamine is just on Azodium the entire game, I'm not really sure if there's going to be much he's able to get done.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of peel potential as a whole from what you're pointing out there. And it just gets very, very difficult as it goes on because your major carries are not going to be punished. And if that's the case, we just see a repeat of game two where you have the scaling potential just keep ramping up. And then what does Death Realm really do?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Death Realm has a lot to get done for themselves, especially with this Volibear and with this Silas. They really have to execute very intelligently. They have to pull the right ultimates. But I think one thing that might work out for them pretty well is they do have the ability to dive towers with Volibear, right? You just ult onto the tower, you also damage it, and you might be able to pull off a tower dive. But unfortunately, who are you going to be tower diving? I think the only lane that you can viably tower dive is the bottom lane. Especially post 6, Cassidy is just going to rift walk away from you. And if you try to tower dive an Alawi, there is going to be a ton of punch. Like when you see an Alawi, the jungler is like, okay, top laner, have a good time. See you later. Because no one wants to go up there. No one wants to gank Alawi. Like, it's just not fun.
No, so it isn't.
So like you said, Team Death Realm, they got their work cut out for them here. If they do make it work, like if they are somehow able to keep Alawi down in the early game, then she's not coming back at any point. But that is a big
really hard. I'll say this: the Alawi will pressure no matter what, and especially since she is one of the direct counters to Urgot. You know, especially once you have most of your tool set available, rotating with the Spirit, of course. I mean, in my opinion, really, other than the Graves pick, I feel like everything here has been really nicely done on the counters. I think the Kai'Sa has potential, but like if we go down the list, you know, Kasten, easy counter to Silas come mid to late game. Alawi, far more team fight presence and scaling potential once you get into the middle of those fights. The Ashe is a monster, but the Kai'Sa can be just as oppressive. But I will say she has not seen play in the same way in these last couple months. So I still think she's variably weak. And it's looking rough. It already seems like it's an uphill battle for Team Death Realm.
Yeah, I completely agree. But at the same time, I think one thing that you can say that Dragons of the West definitely lacks is consistent engage. Right? Their only truly consistent engage, it's Ashe ulti and technically Maokai. Although Maokai ultimate, moves at the speed of molasses, and Twisted Advance is a very, very short, albeit targeted hard CC tool. So Dragons of the West, they are going to have like theoretical difficulties starting fights on their own terms. But I think they have the opportunity for fantastic punishes, and they can skirmish very, very well with the composition they have here. On the side of Team Death Realm, on the other hand, they can take what Dragons of the West has in some circumstances and turn that into strength for themselves off the Silas, or they can look to create opportunities with like either Thresh or Urgot with Death Sentence and Fear Beyond Death, and they just want the Kaisa to scale up. So probably relying on Urgot Volibear in early to mid, but then hoping that Kaisa can become a really big carry in the late game.
Real quick before we take it to break here, True Light, I just want a quick bet with you. Nemesis and Gotti, definitely some of the major players into this game, and they've definitely shown that in the first and second one as well. Give me the lane you really think the impact from them is going to come through here, at least. At least first off, initially.
I would say mid. If you're Gotti, I think if you can find a way to either pressure either Kassadin or hopefully Ashe, then things can go really quite well for you. If Ashe isn't able to pressure Kaisa, then Kaisa can get off the ground. And if Kassadin is kept down and you're able to have a favorable deal for Silas, it works out really well. If you're Dragons of the West, I would say just attack top lane. Volibear isn't super, super mobile, especially with Smokescreen.
All right. All that being said, though, we're going to be taking a too short break as we bring you to the final game of the night here between Dragons of the West and Team Death Realm. We'll be right back. Stick around and stay tuned for what will be an exciting game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back here on Style Esports, taking you through the final game of Dragons of the West versus Team Death Realm. If you're just joining us, I'm still your play-by-play caster, Zephyr, joined by the lovely, the True Light as my color. And we're seeing something a little kin to the first game here. The Death Realm looking for potentially the engage or the 5-man collapse.
Yeah, they are going to stack all up inside this brush. They are also going to see Ketamine. There is no way they can gap close onto him. Yeah. And off that, I would say that Dragons of the West should just take, okay, we saw all 5 of them down there. Let's get some forward vision. Let's try to get some scouting done. At least you see happening later on. And they don't. But it's not the end of the world. Oh, Ash. Ooh, yeah. The cheeky auto attack.
Oh, man. 50 damage. GG. All right.
It's over. It's a
game's in favor. Pacing change when Moo joined.
If you think about it, Moo has done infinitely more damage than anyone else in this game.
10 times as much damage.
No, literally everyone else has done 0, and he's the only one that's done something. 0 is nothing. You can't call that.
Oh, my gosh. I cannot wait till the lanes start. Anyways, I would say Moo's big presence. The minute he came through into this game, they made the switch there. I've liked him a lot better than what we saw in the Ezreal in Game 1. I actually thought he would performed really, really well in Game 2, and he had a lot of presence. So I'm sad that he's possibly not main roster.
Yeah, I think Moo has performed quite valiantly, everything being considered. But you can actually see here, Zodium and CX Lotus, they do have that early push in the bottom lane. They're going to shove Moo and Ketamine into their tower, and that's because Maokai, although does have that hard engage, not a great support at level 1. You can see he started saplings, so can't even. Well, actually, he took the Arcane Comet, so yeah, really, really hard for them to get anything done very early on. Ooh, nice little play from Lotus. Death sentence.
With a good death sentence. Sadly, the follow-up's not quite there. No flash necessary, but my gosh, punishing Moo so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's off the back of hitting level 2 early, but Mu able to stay alive and keep it cool, not even burning a heal, because you can see CX Lotus took exhaust in this lane, probably for descaling into late game, hoping to exhaust either Castone or Graves, potentially even Alawi. But yeah, off of that, didn't burn a single summoner, not the worst of punishes to happen. But as you can see, you want to talk about getting aggressive.
Ooh, yeah, very aggressive there. Sadly, they don't find it, but they do find the hook into the bot lane. That's going to be the flash follow through. Ketamine's low. The heal comes through. Cleanse is used in the process, and we do see Thresh go down, but Moo's going to be collapsed on under turret there. No. Sadly, it's going to be Escanor that finds this one, and the turret shot does take him out. It's going to be the execution now. Meanwhile, Nemesis and Valor have arrived here looking for a Zotim and Goatee, and they've got the level advantage respectively, and there's no escape. Yeah, there's the TP, and it can't be canceled, but it's going to be the double for Nemesis no matter what. Escanor's back though, baby. Bar Grill's through here too. Fish and Valor goes under the turret. They recognize maybe the dive, not so much this time. Either way, 3 for 3 across the board.
Yeah, and when all is said and done, as you said, it's a 3 for 3, 2 kills going on to Escanor, who got a kill, died, TP'd back, got another kill. So,
hey, that's rad.
Everything considered for the Silas here has those 2 kills as opposed to his laning opponent, who also burned both summoners and only has 2 assists, which translates into roughly a 300 gold lead for Escanor. Very happy about that. Otherwise, Azodium, I don't think he loses a whole ton of CS off of off of dying.
He's good.
And you can see already has the pickaxe, likely going to be working towards that Muramana or Manamune, so to speak. Yep. But yeah, that was hectic, to put it lightly. Between both of these teams, you see 6 kills coming through at just under 5 minutes. Very, very wild early game.
I will say the spread was pretty crazy. You had literally all 5 members of Team Death Realm make it to that fight at some point or another. So, I mean, it could have worked out a little bit better, but you get what you get. You don't throw a fit. I will say Nemesis now 2-1 up on the Graves here. He can make some disgusting rotations on the plate.
Oh, absolutely. And you can see already working on that first Drake. It is a Cloud, which will give you 10%. Ultimate cooldown, I'm not sure if Riot mentioned if they'd fixed the bug associated with Cloud Drake yet. I hope they have. Yeah. But I don't think there's any champions that would be triggered.
Not currently. I don't think anyone's throwing ultimates out yet.
But as you said, Graves off those having those 2 kills off of the True Grit as well, giving him so much armor against those jungle creeps. Able to get the dragon, and he's very healthy, everything considered. He was tanking that dragon for a long time.
Hey, but Graves.
One thing to mention is that double TP, so many summoners burned on the side of Team Death Realm. The only summoner that is available is actually CX Lotus's Flash. On the other side, you can see no real TPs available for Dragons of the West either. But Donald Trump, in stark contrast to his laning opponent, has both Flash and TP available. Was very content to just sit in top lane and farm it up while his opponent TP'd away. So, potentially they could make something happen with the Alawi, but I think Alawi just in general is a champion that is happier to stay not.
Wow, Escanor, not 5. Meanwhile, Nemesis looking for the gank on the top side, but you're not really going to find it. The Disdain pushing you out of lane pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's just good on Bar Grill right there. Notice that he's pushed up. It doesn't disdain aggressively, just holds it. And once Nemesis does show up, even though he did have the smoke screen available, didn't actually use it. And even if he did, disdain is able to be used defensively, and Bar Grill stays safe. Otherwise, it's a very, very small gold lead for Team Death Realm, but it's not super, super meaningful, right? It's roughly 200, like 100, 200 gold. So you're effectively net even. But otherwise, taking a look, you can see Escanor working towards that Hextech Proto Belt, has the revolver in his pocket. There is no Western Silas, or there's no Spaghetti Western Silas skin, which is something I now want. But anyway.
That sounds pretty good. I love to have the rustic chains and whatnot. I will say Escanor finds himself in a bit of pickle because I don't think Fish and Valor is the ultimate you really look to take here.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, like Riftwalk is Riftwalk's always going to have its uses.
So gay.
Yeah, it's always going to have its uses, but I think Escanor, you really want to have, you just want to have the Ashe or the Maokai ulti, just because of how useful they are, especially because Maokai ulti, you typically don't see much AP built on Maokai, so you don't notice how much damage it's capable of doing, as well as the scaling that's available for Maokai off of it. But Sylas is definitely a champion that can make use of it. But as you said, he's not really able to utilize that very well, especially being down on the TP at the moment. So it's just a bit of a lull. There's nothing really for either of these teams to hard fight over. Level 6s aren't available in the bottom lane. It's nice little flake.
Nemesis looking to punish his bot lane, flashes forward onto Lotus. There's the exhaust. They throw the Death Sense to pull this man back, but he uses pairs forward there to get the double there. Fantastic rotation and dive from Dragons of the West.
Yeah, and you can see in top lane, fight breaking out a little bit. But just to touch on that fight that happened there in the bottom lane, Nemesis burning the flash as well to stay alive, gets the end of the line down, the collateral damage, I always get those two mixed up, but gets the collateral damage, and it's just so much burst in terms of physical damage, especially in the early game when no champions have gotten that armor per level that they will all have access to. And able to get a very, very easy double kill, so to speak, onto Azordium and CX Lotus, which now translates into a gold lead for Dragons of the West. And you can actually see, though, off the back of it, Prati did grab up that first Rift Herald, and which can be a pretty decent gold swing later on, but as long as you get it while the plates are still up.
I will say, Nemesis, mad props to this guy. Consistently, he's been all over the map. Speaking of all over the map, Fish and Valor and Nemesis making their appearance towards this right above, trying to punish Elgato. Going to use the Stormbringer as a result. Now Escanor has arrived there. Takes the Rift Walk for the hijack to get on top of Nemesis. See Lotus and Azodium have arrived, and they secure the double for the side of Team Death Realm.
Yeah, and that is
as it's placed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the punish that you wanted to have, right? You get the shutdown on the Graves, who had 3 kills. You get that gold for yourself onto some of the carries. And I mean, I really thought that off of Goaty using the Stormbringer, Stormbringer, so defensively, that it had turned into a bit of a wash for Team Death Realm, but off of the fact that Azordium and CX Lotus had that inside track, the fight was taken in their team's jungle. They're able to nab up both Fish and Valor and Nemesis. Nemesis being down on Flash meant that the Graves dies, and Fish and Valor, the early cooldown on Riftwalk is pretty substantial. Wasn't able to get a whole ton done, but the fight in the top lane...
Yeah, Leap of Faith going to be expended there. Bargrill knows that's not the schmoove, and he walks... Meanwhile, CS Lotus looking very low. Nemesis going to be running straight into Escanor and Jay Goaty. They look... Collateral damage doesn't hit anybody. They get the kill easy. Meanwhile, Zodium's getting punched out by Moog, going to be taken down, but the collapse is there. Yeah, Caston can't look for the punch. Great flash heal. Now Fish and Valor going to look to do the same, but before that, Escanor gets the kill. Fish and Valor finds the return there onto Jay Goaty. Bargrill's available. Over the wall he goes. No punish thus forward. But Lotus. No, Lotus, you cannot take that 1v1.
Oh, no.
Fear beyond death. What a shame. That could have been the 3 for 3, but Fish and Valor walks out with the 2 for 1.
Yeah, you can see Fish and Valor, he's just walking away. He still has that level 1 Rift Walk. He's like, wait, come off cooldown. Able to get back over the Dragon Pit. CX Lotus, he's the only one there. He only had 200 HP. Lantern couldn't keep him alive, which means it turns into a 3 for 2 in the favor of Dragons of the West this time around. Once again, Bargrill using that TP, offensively goes into the fight. Something that Donald Trump we have yet to see from this Alawi. And one thing that Donald Trump seems to be experiencing is the mana issues that Alawi is so classically known for. The champion doesn't really build much mana, which means if you are using your abilities aggressively in lane, you might have a very lackluster ultimate because you can't cast anything afterwards.
Yeah, definitely look to be one of the problems they'll deal with. But moving towards the mid lane, one of the issues I look towards here is now you've got 2 kills sitting onto Fish and Valor on this cast. That is a hyper scaling carry. You don't want that to occur. No, he's fine. The big tree trunk doesn't matter. Oh, they were actually looking for a massive dive, and that doesn't come through because the wave just was not in the right location. But like I said, Fish and Valor with the Caston, that does not bode well.
Yeah, absolutely not. And you can actually see I think part of the other reason they had to call off the dive was because Fish and Valor was coming down. Stormbringer only turns off towers for a couple of seconds, which, is sometimes all you need in regards to looking for a dive. But in that particular circumstance, I'm not sure if they could have pulled it off. Maokai did have the ulti available, so they do end up calling it off. Everything stays net neutral. Gold once again dead even, but you can see there Nemesis and Donald Trump are in the top lane.
Yeah, looking for the gank here onto Bargrill. Use the disdain to get a little bit further away, but the spirit is pulled. Collateral damage is huge. And the tentacle. Donald Trump takes the kill there onto Bargrill. Now Steel slows NJ got to have rotated up straight on Nemesis. We got the exhaust coming through. Flash over the wall. The box not quite gonna hit, but Stormbringer falls through. Massive blast cone, but the burn. Meanwhile, Escanor coming through with the teleport straight onto Donald Trump. Massive loop of faith to continue the stay as Fish and Valor arrives for the shutdown. They turn their attention straight onto Donald Trump to chase this one out. As we see the Rift Rock back in, CX low secures that onto Donald Trump. Massive stun with the double kill into the triple there. He goes down. Doesn't matter. 5-2-2. This Kassadin is huge.
And it turns into a 3-for-3 at the very end. You can see Goaty able to get that last stun auto on the Fish and Valor, which means you can see that the gold bounty will go into the Volibear's pocket. But as you mentioned, this Kassadin, he's only going to be scaling up. The champion doesn't really scale down. Fish and Valor 5-2 now, and I do believe, already level 10, one more level, hit that level 2 Rift Walk, and Kassadin is just going to get harder and harder to deal with. Burns TP to get back in the lane. And to Escanor's credit, he's doing things on Sylas, right? Took the Rift Walk there in the hopes of staying alive, but the last little bit of damage is able to take him out. So everything being considered, I don't think it's a terrible look for Team Death Realm, right? They're fighting relatively evenly, but that is going to get harder and harder as the game goes on, as Fish and Valor gets more and more levels, more and more gold. I'm not 100% sure if Team Death Realm is fully executing on what they need to do, because the Kassadin is just scaling up.
I will say you're playing into their win condition. You're scaling, pushing that forward, and now Kassadin just gets worse and worse. I sincerely believe once this man hits 16, it is the hardest uphill battle that a hill is an understatement. We're looking at a mountain, all right? So I definitely think the pacing needs to slow down, or TDR needs to find some sort of lead onto one of their carries. Currently, really, Escanor's the schmoove here. Gotti unable to find that one. They do use the Super Soaker to get a little bit of the slow on the Trump and Vision Valor. Leap of Faith going to be used immediately to crush through that Spirit. The slow going to come through, but not before the Rift-Tailed is secured. Finds its way onto Gotti. Escanor stepping up here, kind of posturing. Doesn't land any of those chains, so he can't capitalize. Fish and Valor waiting for Bar Grill. Finds this man immediately. Great stun with the disengage, so that we do see the collapse in return is a massive shutdown. Finds its way onto Escanor. Gonna look forward, uses the Rift Walk, gets the double kill. Meanwhile, on the bot lane, we've got CX Loads Zodom in quite the difficult position. Zodom looking like he'll be able. No, he gets to get rooted. Cleanse comes over. Has to flash over the wall. So it's a 2-for-2 overall, but huge on the Escanor.
Yeah, fights breaking out across the map. You can actually see Moo's Enchanted Crystal Arrow did tag CX Lotus at the very, very end there, giving him the assist at the very least. The Kai'Sa is going to start becoming more of a threat. If that fight happens between the two of them right there, or the four of them, I suppose. Let's say 10 minutes later, and Azodium is at 2.5, closer to 3 items. I think he'd actually be more motivated to take that fight, especially because Ketamine on this Maokai actually has Liandry's Torment, doesn't even have Aftershock. He's not super tanky. So if Azodium can kite away properly, he's going to get burned down, just like you said. But Dragon's spawning right now. It's another Infernal map, 3 out of 3 in this series.
Hey, they like to give us some excitement, some big damage. Say they're looking to test this one out a bit further.
I'm not sure.
Rotation. They're going to throw the Nature's Grass used in response there. Massive Stone of the Stormbreaker coming deep in the back line.
Oh no!
Hook on to Fish and Valor. Going to go down into the hands of CX Lotus. Deep in the back line, we do see Jay Gotti find the kill there. Donald Trump just can't quite kill this back line. Jay Gotti going to go through with the stun as Escanor picks that one up. Ketamine being the only one left alive. They decide, screw it, let him go. We'll just take the Infernal to go.
Well, to answer your question, they found a answer. How do you deal with the Kassadin as the game gets later? Well, you just kill him and make sure he doesn't get any damage down. Fish and Valor on that fight, unable to get anything meaningful done. And if you can, if you recall properly there, Donald Trump only hit one person with his ultimate, which means not many tentacles respond. Ultimately, they were able to lock up Zordium, but the kills came through, and TDR came out on top.
Wait a second.
Oh, no. Don't think he can survive this.
Does not look good.
Into the death, the TP coming in.
Zodium coming through for the instant. Wow, the passive stacks are enough. Zodium get massive shutdown there onto Fish and Valor. Bargrill and Donald Trump fronting it both here respectively. The disdain going to be used. He tries to run away. Gotti looking very, very low.
Wait, oh my goodness.
Just disengage. Get out of there. Not quite.
They saw the bear. They didn't see the health bar, and they just booked it. Oh my word. This game is just so back and forth. I think Fish and Valor, though, unfortunately just had 2 back-to-back deaths. Able to get the kill on CX Lotus this time around, but that is not something that you want to do. Just respawn as Kassadin and take the TP, or go back to lane and then die pretty much instantaneously, 1 for 1.
So just staving off the monster that he'll slowly be giving TDR just a little bit more time to find themselves into this victory. I will say Escanor looking phenomenal on the Silas, putting 10 times more pressure in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, still has the Enchanted Crystal Arrow in his pocket, which to a certain degree actually dissuades a whole ton of aggression that Dragons of the West would want to put down. Not 100% sure how much longer he's going to have that arrow available, but yeah, it's really hard for Dragons of the West to play against a Silas that is stacking AP and has, Ash Arrow that has 100% AP ratio onto whoever it hits.
Yeah. I will say also Jay Gotti doing a great job into the back of that last team fight, pressuring and making sure Moo, Nemesis, none of them could step up because he was just so aggressive. And I mean, much to the point, he's got the Mercs, he's got the Deadmans, he's making his way towards the Spirit Visage. This guy is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and if you just see him jump in that fight, you can as you mentioned, it's only Ketamine, Moo, and Nemesis who are going to be able to hit him. Has that Dead Man's Plate completed, as you mentioned, working towards a Spirit Visage, which means they're not doing a whole ton of damage.
Change a Crystal Arrow. It does find its way onto Nemesis. That's a massive there from Jay Gotti. Stormbringer uses his raw flash going to come out there. They're looking to follow this one up. Lotus stepping forward. They're going to be taking a huge chunk of damage. Massive move there from Gotti to get the kill return. Escanor shows up as well. That's going to be the double finding its way onto Gotti. I don't think they can collapse any further, but 2 kills in favor of TDR.
Yeah, and Fish and Valor is in that top lane, did have TP available, but I don't think there was a favorable ward for him to look for an angle on. And it looked bad, I gotta say, after the arrow does come through, it looked like Ketamine was able to keep the jungler alive, but CX Lotus kind of saved it, landing a max range death sentence onto Moo. That little 2-second stun meant that the Ashe couldn't get any additional damage down. They couldn't lock up any of the kills, which translates into just more gold on the side of Team Death Realm. No objectives to be taken off of it, but they are now the ones in the driver's seat, so to speak, having a 2K goal lead at 21 minutes. Not the biggest of leads in the world, but definitely noticeable.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely something to work around here. Fish and Valor, Nemesis, as well as Ketamine. Escanor could be in a very bad situation here. Running straight into all 3 of them. Tries to Rift Walk. Gonna use the Exorcism and the Super Soaker. No arrow, but it doesn't matter. Shutdown finds its way into Fish and Valor. Gotti looks for the punish, but a great route from Ketamine slows this man up.
Yeah, I mean, he's sticking around. Yeah, he's sticking around, waiting for the rest of the team. You can see Alawi did get the pull through onto CX Lotus, which means more damage onto him. Otherwise, you can see a few pings going down trying to scout out like, hey, we need to set these wards up, or these wards are set up for potential fights, either if they try to start up the Baron or if we are going to fight around the dragon that comes up in 30 seconds. But yeah, like just a little bit too far forward for Escanor in that circumstance, although, you know, he will spawn with both summoners available, can TP into any sort of fight. I think Bar Grill's TP almost off cooldown as well, so maybe TDR, they want to play it out a little bit slow.
I don't know. This dragon is up, and
It would
they're
put
going to
them
try
up
to get this as much as possible.
Oh,
They
but they're
actually
running
pull it back
away.
pretty. No, they're not running away. They're pulling it out.
Okay. I didn't see that they hit the dragon. That's my bad.
Yeah, no
Nice
problem.
little
Donald
soul
Trump,
there, though.
great job fronting. Leap of Faith going to come through there. No one can really step into this down. Nemesis pushes forward there. But either way, I mean, that's just the Infernal. They disengage. Bam. That's all you want to do. Go back to your lane, scale up. Top notch.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that CX Lotus landed that death sentence first, and Bar Grill actually threw out Fear Beyond Death, but there's no more follow-up engage, right? Gotti is very, very low, has to go back soon. And I think now the move for TDR is start getting more vision control around this Baron pit.
Yeah.
Okay, he popped the blast cone there. Didn't actually see that he was warded, or he was sitting on a ward, so that's highly unfortunate for CX Lotus. Otherwise, you know, take a look. The Castellan timer already hitting at level 13 does have that second ability maxed up. But yeah, I feel like we haven't seen Fish and Valor like doing much aggressively, or really the entirety of Dragons of the West haven't been looking for an aggressive fight. I maybe potentially
don't need to.
they've been
I'll say
losing the
that.
recent fights, but you're right. They don't need to be aggressive. If Donald Trump is willing to just eat the death sentence, I actually think that disincentivizes TDR from looking for anything aggressive.
Vision here. Catching up Ketamine and Moo. You've got the passive stack going. Massive Stormbringer, Killer Instinct as well. Huge stun. Escan kill there. They can look to punish this even further. Mass Teleport forward. Fish and Valor there. Silence on to Gotti.
Oh, but they're pinning him.
Yeah, they're going to be pinning Bar Grills onto the side there. Sun going to come through there as they get the launch onto Fish and Valor. Fear Beyond Death for the secured kill there. Meanwhile, Moo not looking good as Escanor just rips through this guy. Sadly, Donald Trump's Leap Among Faith did not do enough. That's going to be the 4 kills over onto the way here of TDR, and that's just Baron. There's nothing more you can do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. 4 for none. In favor of TDR. They do go onto the Baron. The jungler is still alive. Nemesis is still there, but you can see CX Lotus gonna try to zone the Graves away as long as possible. And yeah, he is doing it, as you mentioned. Oh, he walks into the box.
Exhaust.
Even CX Lotus dies there. He's comfortable with this, and maybe he doesn't even go down.
He doesn't.
But that is absolutely fantastic now for the side of TDR. They get that Baron buff onto 4, CX Lotus being the hero to make sure that Nemesis can't even look for a 50-50. But, you know, I think one thing that I would have to say the composition of Dragons of the West kind of lacks is consistent wave clear. Now, Alawi... Tentacle Slam does physical damage. It does work pretty well against Baron buffs, so to speak, but it's not super safe, right? You need to, to a certain degree, you kind of rely on your tentacles to wave clear for you if you're not using your Q. And the rest of your damage, you know, where is it going to come from? Ashe, you don't want to walk up to try to take out the cannon minion, and Cassidy, you're doing all magic damage. But to be honest, TDR, they're not out here on the map quite yet. Oh, Donald Trump eats the stun.
Killer Instinct immediately, just gone. Not even a question. Absolutely destroyed. And now it's a 4v5. They can start pushing these lanes hard.
Gotti is just so fast with that Dead Man's Plate. Pops the Q. You get the increase, the doubled movement speed towards enemy champions. Not a single thing Donald Trump could do to survive. And I think Bar Grill, he's content to do this. He's like, okay, I'm just holding up the jungler here. There's not going to be a flank. They don't see where Cassidy is, which is what they have to be careful of. But honestly, TDR, they're content to just farm this or to like force. Oh no!
Massive enchanted Crusader from S2 Storm. That's going to double finding its way onto TDR, and that's it. The only one left alive now is Nemesis, Fisher Valor, and Donald Trump. They could look to defend this out. I think we're going to see a rotation towards the bot side as this wave pushes in. They're going to look for the double inhib now.
Yeah, like off the fact that Donald Trump has respawned, the Alawi is there, the ultimate available. They don't want to play this too aggressively, and I feel like that's the intelligent call. Don't hard commit. Oh no!
Massive leap of faith going to be used. Only hits Jay Gotti, but he's too deep. He's going to go down as a flash comes there from Escort. The Fury line onto Fish and Valor. You're going to use the Zarnias, but it doesn't matter. He finds his Reculum onto the Zotium. And with that, only Nemesis move. They pull off. They're not going to look for the end as of yet. They're going to actually route towards what it looks like to be the Infernal Drake to secure that one instead. But, I mean, 27 minutes, double inhibs down. It's not looking good here for Dragons of the West.
Yeah, things are looking increasingly grim for the Dragons of the West. Fish and Valor did go down in that fight once again, just completely locked up. And I think one thing that happened there is Donald Trump, there was a little bit of dissonance in his decision making, using the test of use the ultimate, but flashed backwards rather into the entire enemy team. You don't get a very efficient ultimate off of that. I mean, it's really, really unfortunate that that's how the ultimate went through for the Alawi right there, because there's a possibility of at least getting a ton of burst damage, which Fish and Valor could have potentially capitalized off of. But hindsight 2020, going back into the current state of the game, Dragons of the West, they do have their backs up against the wall. Fish and Valor only level 14 on the cast and 2 levels away from that 16 point, and not really sure if there's much he's able to get done to get there as fast as possible.
Man, I wish we could see power plays, because that Baron was absolutely insane. We're talking entire mid lane up to bot lane. Massive fights all playing out straight into the favor here of Team Death Realm. I mean, they looked absolutely great coming through that one, and I just love to see what it would actually look like. How much gold did they really assess off of that one?
Yeah, and one thing I do want to point out here, Gotti's buy of the Adaptive Helm is very, very good. Not just because, Kassadin is going to hit you with the same spells over and over again, and that's what Adaptive Helm punishes, but also Alawi. Her magic damage access is off of her E, and the damage that translates from the clone back to the main champion is magic, and that's all the same effect, so Adaptive Helm hits that. Ketamine also has a Leandri's Torment, which reduces the magic damage from that as well. It works against 3 of the 5 champions that Dragons of the West have here. And oh no, the arrow.
No, arrow. Yeah, that's
after the last one, it was a huge punish. What are they going to get done this time?
Yeah, they're running through the space, and honestly, all they have to do is just keep shoving these waves in time and time again, and they really will not be punished out here.
Yeah, I mean, they're just waiting for the waves to crash in, and they focus that top lane as well. They're just going to take everything away from Dragons of the West.
Oh, CX Lowe's flashes for there for a massive death threat. Faith coming. He's actually turret shots. It's going to be Spirit that kills him there. Fish and Valor taking that one off, the one with the burn, and just guess a little bit of a misplay there, getting too aggressive, kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah, I mean, I think he looked for a flash hook onto a priority target, but Donald Trump ended up just being like, okay, we're doing this. Gets the easy pullback on the Spirit, able to lock down the Thresh. The thing is, CX Lotus not terribly tanky. I don't think Thresh is the best user of the whole Gargoyle Stoneplate combo. And ultimately, CX Lotus just got completely locked down before being able to get anything meaningful done. And that's kind of what I talked about a couple of minutes ago, right? Donald Trump should be totally okay with eating the hook, because if he eats the hook and Team Death Realm engages, then that's a favorable fight for Dragons of the West. If he eats the hook and Team Death Realm doesn't engage, that means their only super consistent engage tool just got burnt. If Escanor doesn't have Enchanted Crystal Arrow, and you can actually see he just had to use it, I'm assuming off of the cooldown and the timer. But they still own the map, and they start up this Baron.
Yeah, and with this now, with all the waves pushing in, Inhib is coming back up mid, and it probably will be here in bot as well. It doesn't matter. There's no contention. You've got Uncle Ketamine there, but it's at this point, it's one good team fight, and it's all but done for Dragons of the West.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see Mu isn't even completed on the Infinity Edge, doesn't have a Essence Reaver either, so there's not a super consistent arrow available. So Dragons of the West, they're just really, really pressured here. Fish and Valor finally hitting that level 16 on the Kassadin, but is it too little too late? With that Baron buff taken, it's just so hard to deal with everything that
damage.
TDR has available.
Use immediately. So hijack through, hijack done and used. Already pulled through there. Just kind of resetting some of the timings on some of these ultimates.
But they have to worry about the bottom lane. Look at that on the in-head or on the Nexus turrets already.
Meanwhile, the top is constantly going to be pressured here. Oof. They're able to take out turret. Massive Storm is going to come through immediately on straight to Ketamine. Huge. Trying to kite this one out, but he's going to be shredded through. Bargrill steps up to the back line with the disdain. It's going to be the double, the triple for Escanor as they find themselves destroying, taking down, and acing the whole squad of Dragons of the West. And with all that being said, Mr. True Light, after a dominating Game 3, Team Death Realm take the series as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, Dragons of the West, it looked really, really good for them, I gotta say, in that early and mid-game. The Cassid and finding number of kills, but off of Fish and Valor just getting picked or just not being able to get anything done in some of those mid-game fights. TDR, they were able to translate that into objective after objective after objective. They took control of the map, and they close out the series, taking it 2-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Just phenomenal across the board. I know those damage graphs spell a different story, but mad props to Escanor and Gotti specifically to try to level some of the early disadvantages that they did find themselves in. I know we had the scaling potential of Fish and Valor coming up there, and that was going to look pretty bad in some of these team fights, and somehow they managed to pull through these team fights together, and it just led to just increasing damage across the board. And then, of course, you see Azodium, he's playing Kai'Sa. You get to that point on Kai'Sa, you're just going to shred through the entire team.
But definitely one thing to tip my hat off to Uncle Ketamine, being the only person to do remotely competitive damage with Azodium there on that Maokai. Like, if you actually take away Azodium's damage, Ketamine did the most damage in the entire game. And that is just off of, building so much AP on Maokai and then maxing your saplings. Boy did a lot of damage.
That's crazy.
Now, could you say that he might have been more effective if he just went like hard frontline as Maokai support? Possibly, but that's all. But like objectively, the guy did the second most damage in the game as a Maokai support, and I think that's worthy of at least giving recognition to.
A little scuffed. I don't know if I can give him the full qualifications, given that it is AP Maokai.
Support,
I do think maybe going down the route tank could have helped a little bit better, but the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, and I think the thing to highlight here is that in this final game, the team that won was the one that capitalized on the leads that they were getting for themselves the most. For a certain amount of time, Dragons of the West, they did have that gold lead. It was small, but it was something they could have grown. But just off of some really bad decision making, off some bad fights, that lead went away. And TDR, when they were the ones to have the lead, when they were the ones in the driver's seat, they were able to snowball that lead bigger and bigger and closed out the series.
Yeah. So a little different in terms of play style from these two teams. And honestly, I thought Dragons of the West were pretty good as well. I mean, we saw them really shine in the second game. I do think it's really just draft diff across the board. I feel like whoever won draft in these games really actually came out on top.
Yeah, I mean, I one thing you can point out, blue side OP, 3-0 in this entire series.
Wow, crazy.
But yeah, I think the thing is that if Dragons of the West had just cleaned up their game one draft, I don't think that it might feel as bad to them. I think this was a highly competitive series in every single game except the final one. Yeah. So yeah, there are clearly things that both teams need to work on, but they also did a lot of things right. Just excited to see how both of them are going to close the season out.
With all that being said, though, we want to thank you guys all for coming out and supporting Style Esports. We appreciate all the value you bring to it, whether it be in chat or in the game themselves. We always appreciate everything you put towards this organization as a whole. But of course, on the behalf of the two teams we had here tonight, Dragons of the West, Team Death Realm, of course, the production squad we've got going. Massive props to Tori being behind the scenes running this whole thing. She does a fantastic job. Of course, my color caster, Mr. The True Light himself, who honestly is one of the best color casters I've ever casted with. And of course, me, your play-by-play caster, Zephyr. We hope you all stay safe and have a good night.